Chapter 94. Kai Cha stored the injured Fae into her spiritual spatial zone and bowed to Elder Meng to express her thanks. She then said to Long Tao, "I've lost. I'm nearly 10 years older than you, but I don't even have the ability to block a full blow from you." As expected of the third-ranked sequence, Long Tao had used up almost all of his spiritual power in this attack. For a moment, he couldn't even stand straight. Long Tao used his hands to support the Sea King Cretaceous dragon and panted heavily. He didn't even have the strength to speak. Long Tao's current state was the most basic symptom of spiritual power exhaustion. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan used Morbius Spirit Gather Goldfish's spirit injection ability. A pure spirit chi shot out from Lin Yuan's hand and landed on Long Tao's body. Long Tao's depleted spiritual power instantly improved. Although it was not enough to recover most of the spiritual energy, the recovered spiritual energy was enough for Long Tao to move normally. Long Tao cupped his fists to express his gratitude. Lin Yuan and Long Tao's eyes met, and he realized that Long Tao was looking at him very carefully. Lin Yuan smiled and returned the greeting with cupped fists. Long Tao then looked at Kai Cha and said, "If I didn't use my final move, I wouldn't have been able to defeat you." Long Tao's words might not sound courteous, but it also showed that he acknowledged Kai Cha's strength. In addition, Lin Yuan noticed that Cold Moon, Elder Meng, Elder Du, and Ling Xiao were all looking at him. Lin Yuan could not help but think that it was really rude of him to replenish Long Tao's spiritual power in such a situation with these experts present. However, Lin Yuan didn't know that they were rather surprised by his ability to instantly replenish spiritual power. When Lin Yuan had used the spirit injection earlier, he hadn't summoned a Fae but had casually released it. Healing type and support type spirit chi professionals could release healing and recovery type abilities without summoning Faes. However, the effects of such a skill would undoubtedly be greatly reduced. But even so, it allowed Long Tao to recover from his extremely weak state due to the depletion of spirit chi. Previously, everyone only knew that Lin Yuan was a young prodigy who had passed the Class 2 Creation Master exam. He did not expect Lin Yuan to have such an impressive support skill. There were very few skills that could directly increase spiritual power. The most common was the Spirit Siphon Goldfish. However, due to the Spirit Siphon Goldfish's characteristics, almost no one would choose it as their contracted Fae. Therefore, when Lin Yuan revealed this ability, even these experts were quite surprised. Even Sang Yu's usually cold face had a hint of joy as she spoke to Lin Yuan. A skill that increases spiritual energy can greatly increase one's survivability and combat ability in the wild. Very good. Lin Yuan felt a little embarrassed after hearing Sang Yu's words. Now, Ching Rui had become the neglected one. Ching Rui, who was standing behind Old Du, looked at Long Tao with a trace of fear in his eyes, compared to his previous gloominess. If Long Tao's combat ability was on someone else, Ching Rui might not feel anything. However, Long Tao's creation master strength was currently stronger than his. This made Ching Rui realize that it was impossible for him to find trouble with Long Tao. However, when Ching Rui looked at Long Tao, his previous jealousy was now accompanied by the gloominess that had originally been on Long Tao. Lin Yuan sensed Ching Rui's gaze. Lin Yuan, who had lived 2 lifetimes, was no longer a youth. Now that he had met Ching Rui's gaze, he roughly understood that he had been the target of jealousy along the way. Lin Yuan frowned slightly when he saw her gaze. Everything was seen by Tsang Yu. Kai Cha was supposed to hand the sword token to Long Tao for him to exchange for treasures. However, Tsang Yu took a step forward and said, "Originally, the treasures exchanged for the sword token were some high-grade spiritual ingredients that were similar to the pearls." Originally, the treasures exchanged for the sword token were high-grade spiritual ingredients, which were similar to the pearls. However, since Kai Cha injured 3 of your Faes, the reward will be 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster Cash's nectar. Tsang Yu's words immediately made Long Tao reveal a delighted expression. Even Elder Meng had a very radiant smile on his face. When Lin Yuan saw this scene, he immediately knew how rare the silver stamen gold luster Cash's nectar was. However, he remembered that the silver-robed man who had brought him up the mountain had said that he would give him a bowl to drink. Back then, Lin Yuan didn't feel anything and thought that it was just a reception. Now that he knew, Lin Yuan didn't dare to casually accept such a precious item. After Tsang Yu finished speaking, she changed the topic and looked at Qing Rui. There is only a gray box left. It's your turn to open it. Qing Rui's face was filled with joy as he quickly opened the box. When he opened the box, he saw a bottle of dark red blood with traces of purple and a token. Just as Qing Rui was about to pick up the bottle of blood, Tsang Yu's words made him immediately withdraw his hand. The blood in this bottle is the blood of a diamond snake species Fei. However, there is a rule for this gray box. If you don't win the contest, not only will you not be able to win the new treasure, but you will also have to leave this bottle of diamond snake blood behind. After speaking, Tsang Yu gave an eye signal to one of the tea attendants. The other three, including Kai Cha, retreated to the four corners of the hall. When Tsang Yu returned to Lin Yuan's side, the tea attendant that was left behind stepped forward and said, "My name is Shi Cha. My name is Shi Cha, I will compete with you." Qing Rui had already picked up the sword token and saw an exquisite vessel drawn on it. It was a contest of creation master's abilities. This immediately gave Qing Rui confidence. However, Qing Rui didn't understand why the treasure in his gray box could only be taken away after winning the contest, but Long Tao didn't use it. He couldn't help but ask, "I don't know why my contest's rules are different from before." Shi Cha had a fiery temperament, and when Qing Rui asked, she immediately answered. "Because this is the Leaning Moon Mountain's Radiant Moon Palace." Shi Cha's temper was simply like a hot pepper. Her words were very irritating. However, Elder Du immediately went forward and said to Shi Cha, "Qing Rui doesn't know the rules. Qing Rui doesn't know the rules. Please forgive him." Qing Rui was originally full of confidence, but Shi Cha's statement made Qing Rui feel a little apprehensive. Lin Yuan couldn't figure out what was going on. At that moment, Tsang Yu was looking at Qing Rui with eyes filled with contempt. When Qing Rui looked at Lin Yuan with such a gaze, Tsang Yu's heart produced a kind of unpleasant emotion. The Moon Empress might not have officially accepted Lin Yuan as a disciple, but not only did Mystic Moon understand the Moon Empress, but Tsang Yu did too. Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, and it was a fact that was set in stone. This made Tsang Yu feel protective. Even though Qing Rui was just a junior, Tsang Yu didn't ignore him. Tsang Yu had a cold temperament and wasn't someone who would be protective. However, after following the Moon Empress for a long time, she had been influenced by her temperament. Therefore, even though she didn't show it, she still made arrangements for Qing Rui clearly. Because of Qing Rui, Tsang Yu looked at Elder Du, who had brought Qing Rui over, with a slightly unfriendly gaze. Lin Yuan didn't know what Tsang Yu was thinking. Chapter 95. Lin Yuan had never known what level his creation master standard had reached. At the end of the day, Lin Yuan had never come into contact with a proper creation master. Take Elder Ning for example. Lin Yuan only knew that Elder Ning was a Class 4 creation master, but he had never seen Elder Ning's means. Lin Yuan knew that a normal creation master would use spiritual ingredients to enhance a phase quality. However, Lin Yuan had never seen how to mix spiritual ingredients. He had never seen a Class 1 creation master's operation before. Now that he had the chance, he looked at it very seriously. Tsang Yu didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, she found it boring. Therefore, most of their attention was on Lin Yuan. Kai Cha, who was standing in one of the four corners of the hall, looked at Qing Rui with a ruminating gaze. He didn't know how Qing Rui offended Tsang Yu, but he actually chose Shi Cha to stay behind to compete. Shi Cha was the most talented creation master among the four sisters. Even if he had never taken the creation master exam, he was undoubtedly a Class 3 creation master. There should be no suspense in the competition. Shi Cha knocked on the high platform with her hand and asked in a shrewd manner. A creation master competition is to increase the phase grade, enhance the phase quality, or heal the phase damaged roots? You can choose how to compete. Qing Rui was overjoyed when he heard that. His previous nervousness and affected state of mind seemed to have calmed down all of a sudden. Let's compete in healing phase with damaged roots. Cheng Rui answered very quickly, and Lin Yuan couldn't help but raise his brows. It seemed like Cheng Rui was adept at healing phase with damaged roots and believed that he would have a higher chance of winning in this competition. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so eager to make his choice. Shi Cha clapped her hands 3 times and said indifferently, "Then as you wish." Soon, 2 black dog-like fays were carried up. The 2 dog-like fays were half a meter long and had pointy ears. However, there were plenty of teeth protruding from their mouths, making them look abnormally sharp. Lin Yuan recognized that they were 2 violent blood terror wolf cubs that were still in the infant stage. It could be considered a very rare fae. The violent blood terror wolf was a powerful platinum fae, and its cubs would be at silver at birth. These 2 violent blood terror wolf pups had only been born a few months ago, and their origin sources had been damaged. While looking at their dying state, Lin Yuan carefully observed the 2 violent blood terror wolf cubs. Although they were quite far away, Lin Yuan could still see that their eyes were so swollen that they could barely open. There were also a lot of black scabs in his sharp ears. The various symptoms undoubtedly indicated that the source of the injuries to the 2 violent blood dire wolf cubs were in their heads. It was extremely likely that their brains, which were protected by their hard skulls, had been damaged. The brain was the source of intelligence, so it was extremely difficult for beast species fays to treat brain injuries. Before becoming a C-rank spirit chi professional, if he was in the pure land of bliss in the spirit lock spatial zone and tried his best to save the violent blood terror wolf's cub, he would need to spend several days. Conservatively speaking, it would take at least 2 days and 2 nights. After becoming a C-rank spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan still did not know to what extent his Fey enhancement ability had reached. However, the time needed to heal this violent blood dire wolf cub would definitely not be as long as before. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw that Cheng Rui and Shi Cha had already started to move. Both of them were using crystal vessels to mix spiritual ingredients according to a certain ratio. Both of them were very proficient, but there were subtle differences. Lin Yuan could clearly feel that Shi Cha's speed of mixing spiritual ingredients was faster than Cheng Rui's, but it wasn't obvious. Different types of spiritual ingredients were added into the crystal bottles in an orderly manner. Whenever a new spiritual ingredient was added, the medicinal liquid in the crystal bottles would vibrate and have different changes. As they matched, Lin Yuan could see that although they were both concocting spiritual ingredients, Cheng Rui and Shi Cha's concocting spiritual ingredients were different. Just by looking at the color and state, it was obvious. The medicinal liquid that Kai Cha had mixed was an amber liquid that was as viscous as honey. As for Cheng Rui's spiritual ingredient, it was a dark green, non-transparent spirit liquid that was constantly bubbling. The time that the two of them took to mix the spirit liquid was neither long nor short, and it took around 3 to 4 hours. Lin Yuan observed carefully and had a rough understanding of the creation master's methods. As compared to this method of mixing spiritual ingredients, his method was more direct and simple. However, the ability of Lin Yuan's simpler and more direct method was linked to his spirit chi level. Therefore, Lin Yuan only needed to increase his spirit chi occupation rank to increase his creation master's methods. If Lin Yuan wanted to increase his spirit chi occupation rank, he could only obtain it by enhancing phase. This allowed Lin Yuan to increase his creation master's ability and his spirit chi occupation rank to become the same thing. Cheng Rui was originally mixing spiritual ingredients in an orderly manner. During the mixing process, Cheng Rui suddenly placed the crystal vessels on the platform and looked up at Shi Cha, who was mixing spiritual ingredients. His mouth revealed a profound smile. Lin Yuan saw Cheng Rui circulating the spiritual power in his body. While circulating the spiritual power, Cheng Rui's face revealed a painful expression, and it was almost distorted. After a short moment, a bulge appeared under the skin of Cheng Rui's sleeve, and it was heading towards the web between Cheng Rui's thumb and index finger. The bulge was getting bigger, and it looked like something was going to drill out. Cheng Rui let out a stifled groan, and a worm that was around 5 to 6 centimeters long and looked like a shrunken spine had drilled out. Cold Moon frowned and looked at Elder Du with a cold voice. This is the source-type life form, spine goo. Elder Du nodded in response. Lin Yuan didn't expect for the thing that drilled out from the flesh to be Cheng Rui's contracted source-type life form. This source-type life form resided in the contractor's body and would cause extreme pain to the contractor when it was activated. Since Cheng Rui chose to contract such a source-type life form and summoned it during the duel, it must be able to turn the tide of the duel. From the looks of it, there weren't many spiritual ingredients left that Shi Cha had selected. This meant that the spirit fluid that Kai Cha required was about to be completed. In contrast, half of the spiritual ingredients on Cheng Rui's table had yet to be used. Elder Du didn't expect Cheng Rui to casually summon this source-type life form, spine goo. He sighed and said, Cheng Rui's grandfather is Cheng Wu, and this source-type life form, spine goo, was separated from Master Cheng Wu's gold ring spine goo. When mentioning Cheng Wu's name, Elder Du's expression didn't look too good. Elder Du's words entered Lin Yuan's ears. Lin Yuan might not know who Cheng Wu was, but Elder Du was a Class 4 creation master, and only those pinnacle Class 4 creation masters who were just a step away from becoming Class 5 creation masters could be addressed as a master. Chapter 96. Sang Yu looked deeply at Old Man Du and said, It seems like Cheng Wu is really working in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. It is such a major matter, but I don't see the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association announcing it. Old Du quickly said. Elder Cheng has just arrived at the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association and doesn't have any plans to be the vice president. When Elder Cheng has a plan, we will announce it. Sang Yu was rather surprised that Cheng Wu, a pinnacle Class 4 creation master, would actually choose to be the vice president of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. But after thinking about it for a while, Sang Yu understood. Since he knows that he doesn't have the chance to become a Class 5 creation master, he should plan for the Cheng family's descendants. But if Cheng Rui truly has the talent, why would Cheng Wu allow Cheng Rui to form a contract with the source-type life form, spine goo? Sang Yu's words were very cold, but they made Elder Du feel awkward. He didn't know what to say. Lin Yuan listened to Cold Moon and Elder Du's conversation in a daze. However, he also knew that it was very inappropriate for him to ask rashly. Suddenly, Sang Yu turned to look at Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan, do you know what a source-type spine goo is? Lin Yuan shook his head. Sang Yu saw the curiosity in Lin Yuan's eyes. After forming a contract with a source-type life form like the spine goo, it won't be stored in the spiritual spatial zone like other phase. Once the spine goo is contracted by the contractor, it will reside in the contractor's spine and hollow out a portion of the spine to build its nest. Forming a contract with the spine goo will essentially damage the contractor's vitality. Therefore, the creation master that forms a contract with the spine goo will never reach Class 5. Lin Yuan was dumbfounded. There was actually a source-type life form like the spine goo. But thinking about it, his red thorn was also very special. It was just that red thorn's uniqueness was that it needed a blood contract and did not have a biological template. It needed the contractor to specify its evolution. Red thorn's uniqueness allowed Lin Yuan to quickly accept a unique source-type life form like the spine goo. Seeing that Lin Yuan had digested what she had said, Sang Yu continued. The spine goo might be able to destroy the contractor's vitality potential within a certain range, but it is an absolute treasure for a creation master. The spine goo can rapidly synthesize a large amount of spiritual ingredients that the host devours and form a concentrated spirit fluid in the body. When concocting spiritual ingredients, the spine goo can devour the spiritual ingredients and accumulate them within the body, allowing it to maximize the effects of the spiritual ingredients. But there is also a flaw. When fusing spiritual ingredients like this, the spine goo's spirit fluid will be consumed. After the fusion, the contractor will have to consume a large amount of spiritual ingredients to nourish. Otherwise, if the spine goo doesn't absorb enough spirit fluid, it will gnaw on the spinal cord in the spine. At this moment, Cold Moon changed her usual cold temperament and explained everything that Lin Yuan did not know in detail. Lin Yuan finally knew what the spine goo was used for. However, after knowing about it, Lin Yuan's impression of the spine goo worsened. A contracted Fae would treat the Fae as a partner and not like the spine gu, which would turn its spine into the Fae's residence. It was certainly good to cut off one's own meat to feed the eagle, but that was based on the foundation of cutting off one's own meat. In Lin Yuan's opinion, it was a very foolish thing to cut off one's own meat to feed the eagle. At this moment, Qing Rui had already activated the spine gu and was rapidly devouring the spiritual materials. His efficiency immediately increased. In just a few minutes, he had almost caught up to Shicha's speed. When Qing Rui summoned the spine gu and let out a groan, Shicha had already looked at Qing Rui with dissatisfaction. When creation masters were concocting spiritual ingredients, it was a taboo to disturb them. Since the start of the competition, Sanyu had already used her spiritual power to isolate the stage from the outside world. She was afraid that it would affect the competition. However, Qing Rui had actually affected his opponent while concocting a fei. Shicha was about to berate him when she saw Qing Rui summon the spine gu. Shicha was a little helpless and speechless. At first, I didn't intend to use feis as support, but since you used it, I'll use it too. Shicha also circulated her spiritual energy and summoned a plant that looked like a pitcher plant. Shicha poured the spirit liquid that she had concocted, but had yet to purify it, into the plant that looked like a pitcher plant. Shicha then continuously poured her spiritual energy into the fei. After a series of actions, Qing Rui and Shicha concocted the spirit liquid at almost the same time. However, Qing Rui's spirit liquid was converted from the spine gu's abdomen, while Shicha's spirit liquid was directly poured from the pitcher plant. The two of them fed the spirit liquid to the violent blood terror wolf pups, which had severe head injuries. In just a few minutes, the two violent blood terror wolf pups were healed at the same time. The two violent blood terror wolf pups immediately became active and would occasionally use their teeth to bite on the cage, producing cracking sounds. Even when the violent blood terror wolf pups were still very irritable. After the end of the competition, it seemed like it was a draw. However, Qing Rui spoke first. I won because my violent blood dire wolf has leveled up from silver 3 to silver 4. After speaking, Qing Rui reached for the purplish-red blood of the diamond snake species fei. However, before his hand could touch the bottle of the diamond-level snake-type spirit beast's blood, he suddenly heard a mocking laugh. You won after healing the violent blood terror wolf pup and evolving it from silver 3 to silver 4? Why don't you see that my violent blood terror wolf has evolved from elite to flawless? After speaking, Shicha bowed to Cold Moon and returned to the four corners of the palace hall. Shicha's words froze Qing Rui, and his face turned the color of a pig's liver. Elder Du originally wanted to step forward to console Qing Rui, but he didn't expect Long Tao to be the first to clap and laugh heartily. Truly spectacular. Qing Rui's eyes were bloodshot from the clapping and turned blood red as he glared at Long Tao. Long Tao didn't mind. He lifted his feet and patted the non-existent dust off his boots. It was as though he was casually sweeping Qing Rui's gaze away. Long Tao, you and I are irreconcilable. Long Tao didn't bother about the enraged Qing Rui and ignored Qing Rui's ruthless words. Just as Qing Rui was about to flare up, a bone-chilling pressure nearly froze him in place. Qing Rui couldn't stand steadily and was about to kneel on the ground. Elder Du hurriedly stepped forward to support Qing Rui and said to Tsangyu. Envoy Cold Moon, Qing Rui didn't mean to be presumptuous in the Radiant Moon Palace. This is Qing Rui's first time here, so he doesn't know the rules. Sangyu's aura instantly rose as she spoke in a cold voice. Even if he doesn't dare to be impudent, he has already been impudent. You were the one who told him to do so in the Radiant Moon Palace? Or did you not even teach him the Radiant Moon Palace's rules when you brought him here? Old Man Du broke out in a cold sweat. For the past 10 years, the Moon Empress had been biding her time, and the two Moon Envoys had been cultivating in the Leaning Moon Mountain, rarely going out. But how could he forget Emissary Cold Moon's temper? Marquis Jing Shi, one of the nobles of the capital, was insufferably arrogant 15 years ago and disrespected Blue Moon Emissary. His legs were broken by the Moon Emissary, and he had been sitting in a wheelchair ever since. That night, the Jing Shi Marquis's residence was covered in frost. The house of the Marquis was split in half. no one knew what had happened. With Marquis Jing Shi's high-tier king stage strength, his legs should have recovered long ago. However, he did not dare to stand up from his wheelchair. Chapter 97. Marquis Jing Shi was extremely powerful in the capital back then. Even among other king-class experts, many had been rejected by Marquis Jing Shi. With a Fantasy 3 Pinnacle Diamond Desert Lion and the old Marquis behind him, almost no one of his age dared to compete with him. However, after the arrogant Marquis Jing Shi drank wine at the banquet, his words carried a bit of disrespect towards Blue Moon Envoy. After that, he openly provoked them. As a result, the bones in his legs were frozen to the point of almost shattering. How miserable was that? Old Du quickly said. Envoy Dark Moon, how could I dare not teach him the rules of the Radiant Moon Palace? Qing Rui is stupid and didn't understand. I'll bring Qing Rui back and teach him a harsh lesson. I'll teach him the rules of the Radiant Moon Palace. As Old Man Du spoke, his back was already soaked in cold sweat. As a Class 4 Creation Master, Elder Du might be considered outstanding among the Class 4 Creation Masters, but he was still a long way from becoming a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master. As for Class 5 Creation Masters, because they were already at the Class 4 Creation Master position, they didn't even dare to think about the Class 5 Creation Master level. Among the King Class experts, his combat strength was far inferior to a Creation Master's. He had barely reached the King tier. His status in the Radiant Moon Palace was not high enough. If he said something wrong again, he might be crippled and thrown off the Leaning Moon Mountain. Sang Yu had rarely appeared in the past decade, but the title of Ironman Triathlon had always been remembered by many people because of the incident with Marquis Jing Shi. Triathlons didn't refer to athletic ability, but to Sang Yu's style of doing things. Iron wrists, iron fists, a heart of stone. The bone-piercing chill on Sang Yu's body didn't diminish. In an instant, a pair of spinning frost flowers appeared in Sang Yu's eyes. In an instant, Old Man Du felt as if he had been buried under a glacier of 10,000 years. Previously, Elder Du was still supporting Qing Rui, but now, Elder Du couldn't even stand steadily. At this moment, the blood-red color in Qing Rui's eyes dissipated. Sensing Old Du's trembling, Qing Rui suddenly felt like he was out of his wits and helpless. In a panic, Qing Rui cried out in a sobbing tone. My grandfather is Qing Wu, a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master. Qing Rui shouted very loudly, as if he was trying to give himself some courage by shouting. When Sang Yu heard this, her usually expressionless face suddenly curled up into a smile. In an instant, her eyes were filled with frost. As soon as Qing Rui shouted that his grandfather was Qing Wu, Old Man Du knew that something bad had happened. In the Radiant Moon Palace, let alone your grandfather who is a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master, even Class 5 Creation Masters like Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme are here. Even Sang Yu might not let this matter go. The Moon Empress had always been domineering, and the two Moon Envoys represented the Moon Empress will. A pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master was ultimately still a Class 4 Creation Master. There was a heavenly chasm between a Class 4 Creation Master and a Class 5 Creation Master. Class 4 Creation Masters could only nurture phase at the Fantasy V transformation, while Class 5 Creation Masters were already qualified to ascend to the myth rank. When Lin Yuan saw this tense atmosphere, he actually felt his heart in his throat for a moment. Sang Yu's aura might not be directed at him, but Lin Yuan could still feel a pressure that came from the soul dimension. This kind of oppressive feeling was like a person in the clouds looking down on you, making you feel like you couldn't resist. Qing Rui's ability as a creation master was considered outstanding, especially after using the spine goo. He had basically reached the standard of a Class 3 creation master. With the current Lin Yuan, Qing Rui was considered a formidable foe. However, after seeing Qing Rui's earlier performance, Lin Yuan no longer treated Qing Rui as a formidable foe. All of a sudden, Sang Yu turned to look at Lin Yuan and asked, "What do you think? What do you think will happen to those who speak rudely?" Lin Yuan first looked at Old Man Du, who was standing there with cold sweat. Lin Yuan didn't know why, but he felt as though he saw Elder Ning's shadow on Old Man Du. They were both creation masters that enhanced phase, rescued phase, and helped spirit chi professionals break through phase limitations. Looking at Song Yu's expression, if Old Man Du and Cheng Rui didn't give an explanation, they wouldn't be able to leave. Lin Yuan looked at Song Yu and noticed that she was looking at him seriously. Lin Yuan still didn't know what to say. However, Lin Yuan didn't wish for Old Man Du to die just because of a few words. Since Song Yu asked, Lin Yuan followed his heart and said, "Those who speak rudely should naturally be punished. Those who speak rudely should naturally be punished, but there's a reason for it. For example, Elder Du spoke rudely because he wanted to protect Cheng Rui, so Elder Du's actions were essentially to protect the younger generation." Song Yu's aura suddenly lowered, and Lin Yuan could feel the pressure that Old Man Du and Cheng Rui had felt earlier. Lin Yuan's forehead was already covered in sweat. However, Lin Yuan had already grasped 3 willpower runes. Willpower runes might not be able to increase Lin Yuan's spiritual energy, but they could increase Lin Yuan's spiritual defense to a certain extent. Therefore, Lin Yuan didn't look like he was in a sorry state, and Song Yu was a little surprised. Song Yu spoke. "Then you mean that it is all Cheng Rui's fault, so it is enough to punish him alone?" Since Lin Yuan had already spoken, he simply shook his head after hearing Song Yu's words. "When I look at a person, I don't look at how high a person's abilities can bring him. I look at how deep a person's mistakes can make him fall. Cheng Rui's words have already implicated the people on his side and the elders in his family. When he returns, I don't know how many punishments are waiting for him. Therefore, why not let Old Man Du bring Cheng Rui back to discipline him and also tell Cheng Rui's elders about Cheng Rui's mistakes today?" Lin Yuan was silent for 3 seconds before speaking again. Creation masters are very precious resources in the Radiance Federation. Therefore, even if you want to punish them, you might as well punish them to heal more phase. After Lin Yuan finished speaking, he felt Song Yu's aura suddenly withdraw. Lin Yuan looked at Song Yu again and realized that she was looking at him with a somewhat different gaze. Her gaze was actually a little more approachable and intimate. Song Yu looked at Lin Yuan and didn't expect this young genius to be so kind. He was using all kinds of reasons just to hope that she wouldn't be too harsh on him. In the end, Lin Yuan's reason was also in consideration for the Radiance Federation. From Lin Yuan's information, Song Yu felt that Lin Yuan should be a young fellow who had almost never received any favors from the Radiance Federation. His wandering and miserable life in the information actually made his heart look toward the light. This was a very rare and precious quality. Song Yu had asked Lin Yuan earlier because she wanted to test him and see what he would say. There was no standard answer to this question. However, Lin Yuan's answer brought Song Yu a pleasant surprise. Just as Song Yu withdrew her aura, Old Man Du had already pulled Cheng Rui to thank Lin Yuan. However, when Cheng Rui lowered his head to thank Lin Yuan, the blood-red color in his eyes that had dissipated due to fear became even redder. Chapter 98. Cold Yu ignored Elder Du, who was bowing to thank Lin Yuan, and walked straight to the platform. He said to Elder Meng, who had been watching the show, "After coming to the Radiant Moon Palace to receive the Moon Empress reward, let's return." 3 days later, another 20 drops of silver stamen gold luster Kasha's nectar will be delivered to Elder Meng. I have let Elder Meng see a joke in the Radiant Moon Palace for no reason. Elder Meng hurried forward and bowed to Song Yu. Elder Du's condition had given Elder Meng a fright. If he had spoken rudely, he would have ended up the same way. However, the 20 drops of nectar from the silver stamen gold luster Kasha made Elder Meng so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. "Emissary Song Yue, I'll take Long Tao back now." Elder Meng had already figured out what was going on. Just by looking at Song Yu's attitude toward Lin Yuan, one could see that Long Tao and Cheng Rui were merely supporting characters. He had obtained so many good things on this trip, which was more than enough to make up for his disappointment. Just as Elder Meng was about to leave with Long Tao, he turned around and saw Long Tao standing with Lin Yuan. "Thank you for restoring my spiritual power. Otherwise, I would have made a fool of myself." Lin Yuan replied with a laugh. "It's just a small matter." When Long Tao heard and saw Lin Yuan smile, he couldn't help but smile. "Brother, if you're eating anywhere in the capital, don't forget to find me for a drink." Senior Meng led Long Tao down the Leaning Moon Mountain. Old Man Du hurriedly apologized to Tsang Yu before dragging Ching Rui down the Leaning Moon Mountain. As they descended the mountain, Old Man Du purposely waited for a while before continuing to lead Ching Rui down the mountain. This was because Elder Du did not have the face to face Elder Meng, who had gained quite a lot. In the Radiant Moon Palace, apart from Tsang Yu and Lin Yuan, there were only the tea attendants and Ling Xiao, who were looking at Lin Yuan curiously from the four corners of the street. Ling Xiao stood there and looked at Lin Yuan with a calm gaze, but his heart was filled with deep joy. Ling Xiao could see how special Tsang Yu and Mystic Moon were to Lin Yuan. He could also see that Tsang Yu was protecting Lin Yuan. Therefore, there was at least a 70% chance that Lin Yuan would be chosen as a disciple by the Moon Empress. Tsang Yu walked to Lin Yuan's side and said, "She wants you to witness the pinnacle standard of the Radiance Federation's younger generation, be it in terms of creation masters or spirit chi occupations. Walk to the back of the palace hall and go through the long corridor to the inner palace. The Moon Empress will be waiting for you there." Lin Yuan didn't expect that those two exciting matches were actually prepared for him. When Lin Yuan had first arrived, he had not been sure why he was the only one who did not need to compete. However, after seeing the standards of the previous two matches, Lin Yuan knew that his strength was not enough. Walking along the corridor, Lin Yuan felt a little apprehensive. He was about to meet one of the Radiance Federation's only 3 Class 5 creation masters, the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan would never have thought that he would be able to interact with such a pinnacle expert at such a close distance. Lin Yuan was very smart. When he had ascended the Leaning Moon Mountain with Mystic Moon, he had also paid attention to the conversation between Elder Meng, Elder Du, and Ling Xiao. He knew that his objective for coming here was the great benefit that Elder Ning had mentioned, which was the possibility of becoming the Moon Empress disciple. With this thought, Lin Yuan became even more nervous. However, Lin Yuan didn't know that there was another person in the inner palace hall who was even more nervous than him. At this time, in the back hall, a woman was arranging brocade boxes one after another on a shelf next to the lotus pond, muttering to herself. 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. These 100 gifts should be enough, right? I don't know how to be a master. Will it make me seem a little stingy to give my precious disciple 100 greeting gifts? A woman in a moon-colored robe was holding her chin while looking at the brocade boxes on the shelf. She was hesitating if she should take out more treasures. If others were to see this, even Cold Moon and Mystic Moon would be shocked. Was this still the Moon Empress who was as cold as the lonely moon? Any one of these 100 brocade boxes would shake the Radiance Federation, but there was actually someone who felt that it was not enough. When the Moon Empress looked at these brocade boxes, she couldn't help but recall the time when she was young and interacted with her master. With this thought, the Moon Empress was so angry that her teeth were itching. Apart from teaching her knowledge as a creation master, that old bastard would bring her to all kinds of dangerous trials. He was very fierce. However, his master, that old scoundrel, had passed away when he had become a Class 3 creation master. This matter had always been a pain in the Moon Empress' heart. After so many years, the pain had been erased and turned into yearning. The Moon Empress had never accepted a disciple before. Now that she was suddenly going to accept one, she actually lost her sense of propriety. However, when she thought of the old bastard who had taught her, she decided that she would definitely pamper her disciple. Ever since the Moon Empress had the intention to accept a disciple, she was already prepared to accept the identity of a master in her life. Therefore, when Lin Yuan appeared and the Moon Empress understood Lin Yuan's information, she might not have said it, but she had a plan in her heart. With this thought in mind, and since Lin Yuan had fought his way up the Leaning Moon Mountain, the Moon Empress had used her spiritual energy to sense Lin Yuan's every word and action. The Moon Empress had always been very satisfied until Cold Moon tested Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan's defense deepened the Moon Empress' impression of Lin Yuan. It made Lin Yuan's image in the Moon Empress' heart even more three-dimensional. Originally, the Moon Empress had planned to test Lin Yuan yesterday, but she was now busy thinking about how to pamper her disciple. Lin Yuan's footsteps were getting closer, and the Moon Empress could already hear them clearly. The Moon Empress took a deep breath and restored her usual demeanor. When Lin Yuan arrived at the inner palace, he was stunned by the scene. The inner palace's scene couldn't be described as luxurious, but it didn't refer to how many expensive decorations there were. It referred to how many powerful and precious fays there were in this house. The inner palace was like a fairyland, and there were dozens of unknown lotus flowers blooming in the huge lotus pond. Using true data, none of the lotus fays' quality was lower than diamond. However, before Lin Yuan could pay attention to these, he was attracted by a figure in a moon-colored robe. Just as Lin Yuan didn't know how to greet her, the Moon Empress walked forward and asked, "Do you have any requirements to be my disciple?" The Moon Empress was originally thinking about how to speak more cordially. However, when she really opened her mouth, it immediately became something that she needed. After speaking, the Moon Empress felt a little regretful. Didn't I seem too anxious to accept a disciple? Lin Yuan did not expect that the Moon Empress, a Class 5 creation master, would actually say such a thing after seeing him. However, Lin Yuan had already thought about it when he was walking just now. Even if he became the Moon Empress disciple, he still had to firmly walk on his path of being an expert. Moon Empress, I don't have any conditions to be your disciple, but I hope that I can walk my own path step by step and rely on my own efforts. Lin Yuan's words made the Moon Empress confused. In that case, wouldn't the 100 treasures that I prepared previously be in vain? Chapter 99. When Lin Yuan sat on the chair, his mind was in a daze. However, he quickly sorted out the things in his mind. He was very nervous when talking to the Moon Empress, but later on, he had a vague feeling that the Moon Empress was even more nervous than him. After chatting for a while, the Moon Empress didn't talk about accepting a disciple anymore. At this time, the sky was a little dark. The Moon Empress arranged for someone to bring Lin Yuan to stay in the pavilion in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace. Lin Yuan looked at the furnishings in the room. There were plenty of orchids that emitted a faint fragrance. The orchid leaves were green, but they were as straight as the bones of the orchid. Among the lush orchid leaves, there was a small white flower that was blooming. Just looking at it would make one feel refreshed. If the Moon Empress wanted to accept him as a disciple, it was a little sudden for Lin Yuan, and he wasn't prepared at all. If the Moon Empress really wanted to accept a disciple, no one would reject it. However, Lin Yuan was different. Lin Yuan had pitifully few restraints since he was young. Apart from Chu Xi, the only one who could restrain him was Lu Jia, the retainer he had just taken in not long ago. There was an ancient saying that a teacher for a day was a father for life. The title of teacher was a deep restraint. It was also a kind of affection that could be attributed to kinship. The relationship between teacher and student was very important. Lin Yuan didn't have that many feelings for the Moon Empress right now, and it was more of respect. Therefore, Lin Yuan didn't know how to deal with the Moon Empress when she suddenly called him teacher. While Lin Yuan was pondering, the Moon Empress was using her hands to gently stir the water in the lotus pond. At that moment, a few half-meter-long fish suddenly drilled out from under the lotus leaves. They were like peonies blooming in the water, and their tails were like skirts that were layered and graceful. If Lin Yuan saw these fish, he would be abnormally surprised because they were all spirit siphon goldfish. These spirit siphon goldfish had already grown to platinum in the lotus pond. The Moon Empress was stirring the water with her fingers, causing ripples. These spirit siphon goldfish came over to get close to the Moon Empress. As the Moon Empress stirred the water, her mind was thinking about her first meeting with Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress was very satisfied with Lin Yuan and admired him. In fact, after knowing what Lin Yuan had experienced since he was young, the Moon Empress still had some tender affection for him. However, the Moon Empress also knew that it was too easy for her to accept a disciple. The Moon Empress had always been domineering and handled relationships very simply. However, after today's conversation, the Moon Empress realized that accepting a disciple wasn't like how a creation master could evolve a fae in one go. The Moon Empress recalled the question she had casually asked Lin Yuan. What's the most important thing between master and disciple? The relationship between master and disciple is more important. However, Lin Yuan's answer made the Moon Empress start to think carefully. The Moon Empress was originally planning to accept Lin Yuan as her disciple today, but she didn't want to be in such a hurry now. Since the most important thing between a master and his disciple was their relationship, it needed to be accumulated over a long period of time. At that moment, the Moon Empress heard footsteps. Cold Moon walked into the inner palace and saw the Moon Empress fiddling with the water in the lotus pond as though she was thinking about something. At the same time, Lin Yuan was nowhere to be seen. Can it be that the Moon Empress isn't satisfied with Lin Yuan? Just as Cold Moon was guessing the Moon Empress' thoughts, she heard the Moon Empress ask softly. Sanyue, don't you think you should learn to look at things from the perspective of an ordinary person after standing at the top for so long? The Moon Empress' words caused Sangyu's cold expression to turn into one of astonishment. Sangyu pondered for a moment before replying. I think that after becoming a powerhouse, I have to consider things from the perspective of a powerhouse. Sangyu's answer was what she was thinking. If a person wanted to become a powerhouse, he would have to cut his way through thorns and thorns, spend a lot of time and experience many hardships. Coupled with outstanding talent, it was possible for one to become a powerhouse. In this world, the strong have their own special rights. Why should they put down their pride and use the thinking of ordinary people to consider things? Wasn't it easier and more direct for the strong to consider things? The Moon Empress stood up, and the water in the lotus pond slid off her jade-like hands and returned to the lotus pond. Cold Moon saw the Moon Empress shake her head with a smile on her lips. Your way of thinking is both right and wrong. Sangyu, go find me a spiritual ingredient recipe book. Since we need to nurture our relationship when accepting a disciple, let's start with the simplest. Sangyu's mouth was so wide open that she could almost swallow an egg. What? I didn't hear wrongly, right? The Moon Empress actually wants to cook, and it is to nurture a master-disciple relationship with Lin Yuan. When has the Moon Empress ever cooked before? All of this is simply too fantastical. How is this the Moon Empress isn't satisfied with Lin Yuan? This is simply the Moon Empress being extremely satisfied with Lin Yuan. However, Sangyu didn't understand why it was so complicated to accept a disciple. Wasn't it just a sentence from the Moon Empress? While Lin Yuan was being reserved and bored in the room, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He heard two crisp sounds coming from outside the attic that he lived in. Lord Lin Yuan, we are under the Moon Empress orders to deliver a change of clothes and prepare the hot water for the pavilion soup pond. Hearing the voices outside, Lin Yuan let the two in. He saw two young ladies with bright eyes and white teeth, and they were about the same age as him. Both of them were wearing light yellow robes. However, it was obvious that one of them was dressed more exquisitely, while the other one didn't dress much. The soup pond behind the pavilion was connected to an underground warm spring, and when it wasn't used, the spring's mouth would be sealed. When it was time to use it, the restriction on the mouth of the spring would be opened, and hot spring water of exactly 40 degrees Celsius would flow out. After the preparations were done, the delicately dressed young lady looked at Lin Yuan with sparkling eyes. She handed over the spirit chi clothing to Lin Yuan and asked softly, "What do you think?" "Lord Lin Yuan, do you need me to help you change and bathe?" Lin Yuan hurriedly shook his head. "I can do it myself." The exquisitely dressed girl's eyebrows were obviously a little disappointed. "Lord Lin Yuan, we will take our leave." The two girls came to the pavilion and gave it a simple clean. Lin Yuan observed that the two young girls, who were more exquisitely dressed, had been standing next to him the entire time and had been looking for topics to chat about. On the other hand, the unadorned young girl had done almost all the work. It was obvious that she had expended a lot of energy to remove the restrictions on the spring. These two women were both wearing light yellow robes. The Moon Empress had already given him a brief introduction of the deployment on Leaning Moon Mountain. These two women in light yellow robes should be the Radiant Moon Palace's spirit attendants. These spirit attendants were all talented creation masters among the younger generation, and they were all young ladies. As spirit attendants, their statuses were already equal, but it was obvious that one was bullying the other earlier. Chapter 100. People might not be helpless in the pugilistic world, but they would still need to rely on their own capabilities to achieve what they could. Those with great capabilities would naturally do well, while those with weak capabilities would do poorly. However, to be selected as spirit attendants at this age meant that they were all talented individuals. Lin Yuan didn't expect such a situation. Lin Yuan didn't want to bathe in the hot spring, so he simply stood by the window of the pavilion. The pavilion's window was open, and the sky was faintly turning dark. A new moon was slowly rising. However, Lin Yuan didn't expect to see such a scene while standing by the window. The two spirit attendants that were helping to tidy up the pavilion were currently standing not far away from the pavilion and talking about something. As they weren't close, Lin Yuan couldn't see their expressions clearly. However, the wind blowing toward the pavilion carried their conversation to Lin Yuan's ears. If you dare to spread what I said to Lord Lin Yuan today, and I get punished, I will teach you a lesson. The young lady's voice had a threatening tone, and it wasn't as melodious as it was in the pavilion. Jin Qi, what you said earlier was obviously not the Moon Empress' intention. When did the Moon Empress ask you to bathe and change clothes? What are your plans for making such a decision on your own? Lin Yuan could vaguely see Jin Ling pushing You don't have to care about my plans. If I can climb up to the Lord in this pavilion, no matter what I become, it will be better than being a spirit attendant. If you don't want to improve, it's your own problem. It's not that I don't want to improve, but I know what I can do and what I can't do. Upon hearing this, an angry voice echoed. You know what you can do and what you can't do? Then why did you damage your phase roots to save others? You spent half a year to recover, but during this half a year, we are already about to become Class 2 Creation Masters, while you are only a mid-class Class 1 Creation Master. You are so far behind, and you will be selected for the Spirit Attendant test half a year later. You aren't even fit to stay on the Leaning Moon Mountain. The voice gradually faded away, and the wind carried all of it into Lin Yuan's ears. After hearing these voices, Lin Yuan felt as though he could feel the undetectable human nature hidden in the darkness. Human nature was hidden in the heart. Good or evil, who could truly open the heart and take a look? Lin Yuan closed the window and walked towards the hot spring. The hot spring bath washed away all the dust and fatigue on his body, but it still couldn't wash away the lead that covered his body. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw Tsang Yu walk in with a huge green jade bowl. This is the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that the Moon Empress prepared for you. There are 2 bowls here, and you only need to finish half of it. Drinking more would be a waste. With that, Tsang Yu left. Even now, Cold Moon was still in a state of shock. She couldn't understand why the Moon Empress was treating Lin Yuan so well. Bestowing treasures was extremely common. Even if Tsang Yu was bestowed with an extremely precious treasure, she would not feel this way. However, the Moon Empress was already putting in effort to cook for Lin Yuan. Such an action was self-evident. It proved that the Moon Empress really took Lin Yuan seriously and treated him as her disciple. A big bowl of amber-colored silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was placed in front of Lin Yuan, but it didn't have any taste. Actually, it made sense. The more precious something was, the more reserved it would be at times. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar didn't have any smell because all the essence was locked in the nectar. Looking at this big bowl of nectar that was enough for 2 people, Lin Yuan's heart suddenly felt warm. It was as though he vaguely understood the Moon Empress' deep meaning. Since this nectar was no longer effective after drinking half of it, then the other half could only be prepared for the person closest to him. That person was Chu Ci. If there was only a small bowl of something that could cleanse the body's impurities and enhance one's constitution, Lin Yuan would probably leave half for Chu Ci. Lin Yuan would probably leave half for Chu Ci, but the Moon Empress had actually thought of this. Suddenly, an idiom popped up in Lin Yuan's mind. Love me, love my dog. However, Lin Yuan immediately shook his head. The Moon Empress didn't know Chu Ci, so there was naturally no such thing as love me, love my dog. Therefore, the reason she did this was because she was thinking for him. Suddenly, Lin Yuan had a feeling of being cared for by an elder. This feeling was salty and astringent. It made Lin Yuan think of his parents, Auntie Zhang, and Uncle Li. These people had never asked for anything in return for their contributions. They had contributed from the bottom of their hearts. It was the same for the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan knew that he didn't have anything to repay the Moon Empress. It was obvious what kind of treasure the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was from Elder Du and Elder Meng's reactions. Such a big bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar had at least 500 drops. Lin Yuan might not be able to produce such a bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar even if he worked hard for a few years. Moreover, there were only 2 silver stamen gold luster cassias in the world, and they were exclusive to the Moon Empress. All of this was because the Moon Empress wanted to be a master. Although she hadn't officially accepted him as a disciple, she was already doing it. This gave Lin Yuan an indescribable feeling. Was it warmth or was it touching? Or was it something else? In any case, in Lin Yuan's eyes, the Moon Empress wasn't just a Class 5 creation master that stood at the peak. She was a senior that would give him a trace of warmth whenever he thought of her. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar could wash away the impurities in the body and enhance one's constitution. Lin Yuan picked up the bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and drank half of it in one go. When the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar entered his throat, it had a rich sweetness that contained the sweet fragrance of osmanthus. When the nectar that wasn't too viscous entered his stomach, a bitterness that was unique to plants appeared at the base of his tongue. This bitterness appeared at the base of his tongue, and it immediately turned sweet. His mouth and tongue were once again filled with the fragrant sweetness of the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Not long after drinking it, Lin Yuan suddenly felt his body heating up. His skin started to secrete a large amount of oil, and the color of the oil wasn't the normal yellow oil. Instead, it was brownish red with some black spots. When the oil appeared, Lin Yuan smelled an unbearable odor. Lin Yuan immediately entered the hot spring again, and under Lin Yuan's washing, the impurities were dissolved in the hot spring. It was fortunate that the hot spring's restriction was opened, and the hot spring was constantly flowing. Otherwise, the more he washed, the more impurities there were, and the hot spring would immediately have that extremely unpleasant smell. After washing for over 2 hours, Lin Yuan finally realized that his body wouldn't secrete these disgusting impurities anymore. These impurities were innately present in the human body, and when humans ate grains, these impurities would accumulate. When these impurities accumulated, ordinary people would suffer from some terminal illnesses. When these impurities accumulated for spirit qi professionals, it would affect their bone frame, which was also the so-called cultivation speed. Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power and realized that after he circulated his spiritual power circulation speed increased by at least 30%. This discovery made Lin Yuan abnormally surprised. But immediately after, Lin Yuan suddenly noticed his hand. Chapter 101. This novel will be published at noon today. Button would like to thank everyone for their support and companionship. As the author of this Beast Evolution Quotient, I can also be considered the parent of this book. I have a few words to say. First of all, I would like to thank the friends who have been recommending me and tipping me. I've been keeping an eye on them, and there are many readers whose names I feel are very familiar with. Here, I would like to bow to all of you to express my gratitude. I'm really bowing. There have been many bumps along the way for this book, and the starting point has been changed to creation. This book was actually written after reading some novels and wanting to create a world of its own. The world is bigger, so sometimes I want to write in more detail. I'm not a newcomer. I've also written a 2D novel with 1.6 million words. Button writes very slowly. She has to work during the day, so she writes at home at night. It was quite difficult at first, but she slowly persevered. Because it's quite lonely when she writes alone. Slowly, the recommendation votes increased, and there were also many comments after that. Button would read it seriously regardless of whether it was good or bad. Slowly, I established a reader group, and after I gained some readers who supported me, I became even more determined to continue writing this book. After signing the contract, I also had a chance to test the waters. I would like to express my gratitude here. Button is a very easygoing person. I don't know what to say. In short, this novel is going to be published. Please support me. The story of this book is still long, so please give me your guidance. Also, just like other novels, I'm asking for recommendation votes, comments, evaluations, subscriptions, favorites, and monthly tickets. Aren't I greedy? QAQ, thank you for your support. Yes, that's all. Chapter 102. Lin Yuan could see that this hand was white and slender, but it wasn't feminine. The bone structure was clearly defined and just right. Just looking at the palm, it was white with a tinge of red, and there were unique veins on the palm. Is this my hand? Lin Yuan had always been on the path of temperament, and his excellent temperament coupled with his sunny appearance made him look fresh and fresh. However, Lin Yuan's hand wasn't like this in the past. Lin Yuan had been an ordinary person for 18 years, and the arduous labor had caused his palm to grow some inconspicuous calluses. His body might have recovered after he could sense spirit qi, but the skinny Lin Yuan's body wasn't strong. But now, apart from this pair of hands, Lin Yuan realized that his body had also become meticulously sculpted. Is this the effect of the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar's cleansing of impurities and strengthening the bone frame? Everyone had their own unique genetic model after their parents gave birth to them. There would always be flaws in the growing genes, causing a person to not be able to completely evolve toward the genetic model. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar's essence was to cleanse the body's impurities and strengthen the bone frame. The nectar's energy would fill in the body's flaws and allow the body to evolve toward the perfect genetic model. After leaving the hot spring, the skin would automatically bounce off the water in the hot spring. The skin wouldn't be overly fair and would have a light honey color instead. Lin Yuan walked in front of the mirror and looked at it. He realized that the person in the mirror was still himself, but his appearance was more exquisite. The youthful aura that was mixed with the fragrance of grass and the warm sunlight formed a wonderful temperament. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh. He actually felt that the person in the mirror was really handsome. However, when he thought that the person in the mirror was himself, Lin Yuan couldn't help but shake his head. I'm not such a narcissistic person. For the next few days, Lin Yuan ate the Moon Empress' spiritual ingredients and delicacies in the Radiant Moon Palace. However, the Moon Empress didn't let Lin Yuan know. During the day, the Moon Empress would call Lin Yuan to her breeding room. She didn't teach Lin Yuan anything special and just let him see how she enhanced the phase. Lin Yuan watched very seriously. With the Moon Empress' display of techniques and the knowledge that genius had learned, Lin Yuan realized that the appropriate combination of spiritual ingredients could greatly assist the phase evolution. Lin Yuan's method might be far inferior to a proper creation master's, but he still benefited greatly. Upon seeing how serious Lin Yuan was, the Moon Empress was very happy. She displayed it very carefully and would even give him some pointers from time to time. Although they had only been in contact for a few days, they were no longer as distant as they had been in the beginning. Lin Yuan was slowly treating the Moon Empress as his master. The Moon Empress was also wholeheartedly treating Lin Yuan as her disciple. The Moon Empress realized that the relationship between master and disciple wasn't as simple as a form of address. After accepting the other party, they would really pour their heart and soul into it. During these few days, Lin Yuan realized that apart from the few vine birds that could be used as assistants in the Moon Empress breeding room, the Moon Empress didn't have any other vine birds. There was also a little rabbit that was always eating carrots. No matter how much it ate, it seemed as if it could not finish the carrots in its hands. Every time Lin Yuan wanted to hug it, the little bunny would dodge and scamper to other places to play by itself. On this day, after the Moon Empress nurtured phase, she called Lin Yuan over to her side and asked, "Do you have any plans after this?" Lin Yuan listened to the Moon Empress' question and thought for a moment before replying. I plan to open a shop in the capital next year. After some time, I will have to return to the Xia region to settle some matters. The Moon Empress nodded and replied. A creation master or spirit chi professional will have to experience many things along the way, such as exploring dimensional rifts, capturing fays in primeval forests, deserts, and rivers. All of these have to be experienced, and coming to the royal capital is indeed a good choice. Lin Yuan nodded. This world was very big, so big that it seemed to have no boundaries. He was desperately trying to improve his strength so that he could have the ability to explore the world. However, Lin Yuan still had an ambition now, and that was to become a member of the Radiance 100 sequence. Therefore, Lin Yuan spoke his mind. The Moon Empress let out a faint smile. Then you have to work hard. Since you want to compete for the Radiance 100 sequence, I have to tell you that the Radiance 100 sequence is just the beginning. The Radiance 100 sequence is just a seed to become a Radiance Envoy. This was the first time Lin Yuan had heard of a Radiance Envoy. He had never heard of it before, be it in the news or on Star Web. The Rain Empress looked at Lin Yuan and said, "That's right. There are only 5 Radiance Envoys, and they are the true steel-like backbone of the Radiance Federation's younger generation. Radiance Envoys will only be selected from the Radiance 100 sequence." After speaking, the Moon Empress pondered for a moment and continued. The Radiance Federation is very big, but there is not only one Radiance Federation in this world. The Saint Dynasty Federation and the Crimson Dark Federation can compete with the Radiance Federation as equals. The 3 major federations exist side by side. There are also hundreds of small federations that are independent. The Radiance Envoys represent the competition between the Radiance Federation's younger generation and the major federation's younger generation. The Moon Empress' words shocked Lin Yuan. In this world, just the Radiance Federation alone was so big that it almost had no boundaries, but there were still 2 federations that could compete with the Radiance Federation. In addition to the hundreds of small federations, Lin Yuan really could not imagine how big this world's territory was. The Radiance Envoy was just a title, but it made Lin Yuan's blood boil. It was an honor and a mission at the same time. The responsibility that the Radiance Envoy shouldered was glorious and arduous. The Moon Empress patted Lin Yuan's shoulder with eyes full of encouragement and eagerness. Previously, the Moon Empress had asked Lin Yuan, and when Lin Yuan had expressed that he wanted to rely on himself for the road ahead, she had really had a headache. However, the Moon Empress was also proud of Lin Yuan's choice, as it was hard not to admire such a temperament. However, as a teacher, the Moon Empress would not be lacking in the things that she had to do. I received news from the spirit guards. There is an anomaly in the Water Luster Forest, and the situation is still unclear. I will bring you there later to take a look. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. He had not seen much of the outside world, especially the mountains and forests. There were plenty of fays in the mountains and forests, and almost every piece of the mountains and forests had a fay ruling over an area. As such, ordinary people did not have the opportunity to enter. Now that there was a chance, Lin Yuan was rather excited. You can go to the royal capital to take a stroll during these few days. Apart from the Radiance 100 sequence, if you have the idea, you can also create a guild-type club. A guild-type club can form its own 5-member team and participate in the guild competition. The top-ranked glory teams are not inferior to the Radiance 100 sequence. Many of the Radiance 100 sequence members are also members of some 5-member guild teams. It could be said that the Moon Empress had put in a lot of effort in teaching Lin Yuan. The number of words she had spoken to Lin Yuan over the past few days was even more than the Moon Empress's 2 months. Even if it was a small matter, the Moon Empress would explain everything in detail. When the words "create a guild club" flashed in Lin Yuan's mind, he was actually rather moved. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 103. After thinking about it for a while, he gave up on the idea of establishing a guild club. It wasn't the right time to establish a guild club yet. A guild club's main purpose was to nurture its own team. A competition team had to have 5 members. Teammates that fought together couldn't be sloppy when looking for them. Teammates in a combat team had to trust each other. Only with mutual trust and cooperation could the team's strongest combat power be unleashed. A powerful team didn't rely on heroism. Instead, each member had their own role: power, attack, agility, defense, control, support, healing, and many other aspects. Finally, when they complemented each other, they could present the most perfect team state. Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't be sloppy when choosing a team. Similarly, Lin Yuan also knew that he didn't have the qualifications to form a team yet. At the end of the day, he was still too weak. It wouldn't be too late to make plans after reaching the 100th floor of the Star Tower and stepping into the celestial stairway. Before leaving, the Moon Empress called out to Lin Yuan and said, "Take this. Take this." After speaking, she tossed an exquisitely shaped pendant to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan took a closer look and realized that this leaf-shaped pendant looked like it was carved from jade. However, rather than saying that this pendant was suitable to be worn around the neck, Lin Yuan felt that it would be better to wear it on his body. It was more suitable as a brooch. Upon seeing Lin Yuan observing this leaf-shaped jade brooch, the Moon Empress explained, "This is a diamond face storage box. This is a diamond face storage box. It is filled with the corpses of all sorts of dimensional lifeforms, ranging from Class 1 exotic beasts at bronze to Class 4 exotic beasts at platinum. Don't you have a source seed? You can use the flesh and blood of these dimensional lifeforms to feed it." After speaking, the Moon Empress waved her hand, indicating that Lin Yuan could leave. She then continued to concoct the spirit fluid in her hand. When Lin Yuan left the Moon Empress breeding room, he was holding this leaf-shaped brooch. He had long heard that the Ostrich Logistics diamond face storage box was usually used as a high-class decoration. It was completely different from the face storage boxes before platinum. Lin Yuan didn't have any concept of this. Now that he was holding this small brooch-shaped diamond face storage box and pouring spirit chi into it, Lin Yuan saw that the diamond face storage box was about the size of a football field, and the corpses of various dimensional lifeforms were placed according to their grades and species. If these corpses were to be consumed by Red Thorn, it wouldn't take long for Red Thorn to advance to bronze level. Apart from that, he also found 2 pots of strange plants in the corner of the diamond face storage box. Lin Yuan used True Data to check and found that they were 2 pots of platinum production type phase. One pot was called cane loofah, and it was a nutritious food specially for miscellaneous phase. The other pot was called celery vine, which was a rare nutritious food for herbivorous phase. Be it the platinum cane loofah or the platinum celery vine, they were countless times more expensive than the platinum usnea. The platinum usnea was considered a very rare production type phase. The production of the usnea vines at the platinum level was astonishing. A pot of platinum usnea would produce 100 platinum usnea vines every day, which could be used to feed a large number of phase. However, be it the cane loofah or the celery vine, the production was relatively small, and it was usually only enough for 1 or 2 phase to eat every day. No matter what, the platinum usnea had an advantage. However, apart from containing energy, the cane loofah and the celery vine also had a trace of the effect of stimulating the bloodline potential. Any fae that could stimulate the bloodline potential, even if it was just a spiritual ingredient, would not be cheap. Moreover, it was a production type fae that could produce a certain amount every day. It seemed that Red Thorn, Chimey, and Genius could exchange for rations. The diamond face storage box was considered a luxury item and expensive, but it was undoubtedly insignificant compared to the items in the face storage box. Lin Yuan recalled the scene of the Moon Empress casually throwing the diamond face storage box to him and asking him to hurry up and leave, and his heart felt warm. This feeling of being cared for by an elder was rare in Lin Yuan's life. Even if there was, it was too long ago, so Lin Yuan cherished every such feeling. After returning to his pavilion, Lin Yuan found that Lu Jie had sent him a lot of messages in the past few days. When he opened the messages, it turned out that Lu Jie had found a few good locations after coming to the royal capital, and the prices were also considered suitable. These locations were relatively suitable for opening a store, and Lin Yuan could not help but admire Lu Jia's efficiency. In fact, as a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, even if he had disappeared for 2 years and suddenly appeared in the royal capital, it would be easy for him to find some suitable stores to open in the royal capital. However, Lin Yuan was not particularly satisfied with these stores, as they were still relatively small. After seeing the Radiant Moon Palace's picturesque scenery, where every ornament was a fei, Lin Yuan had an idea. That was to say, he had to design his own shop well. Although it would definitely not be comparable to the Radiant Moon Palace, he had to design some quality. For example, after the cinnabar sweet osmanthus in his spirit lock spatial zone recovered, Lin Yuan still wanted to plant it in his store's courtyard. Therefore, this store had to be big. Otherwise, if the store was too small and had to move, it would be better to find a place that was big enough. It did not matter if it was a little remote. Lin Yuan was very confident in himself. Fragrant wine needs no bush. Lin Yuan replied to Lu Jia, saying that he still had to buy a bigger store. Lin Yuan thought that since he was in the royal capital, he might as well arrange to meet Lu Jia in the royal capital tomorrow afternoon. It had been a few days since he went on the star web. Lin Yuan logged on the star web to take a look. He realized that he had really received a lot of messages over the past few days, and most of them were sent to him by a single person. This person was the bad-tempered person who had come to his store to wait for feis. It was already October, and Lin Yuan had promised the bad-tempered person that he would treat her daughter's fei after October. Now that it was October, the bad-tempered person was obviously a little restless. See if I stab you or not, master, I have prepared the revival soil. I wonder when you are free to take a look at my daughter? I am in the royal capital. Where is master? I can rush over with my daughter. Lin Yuan did not expect the bad-tempered person to be from the royal capital, so he simply sent a message. He set the time for tomorrow morning, and the treatment location was set at the royal capital's Creation Master Association. Lin Yuan did not have his own store yet, so if he wanted to treat the bad-tempered person's daughter's fei, he could only set it at the Creation Master Association. Class 2 Creation Masters could already use the breeding room for free. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would not have allowed the bad-tempered person to bring her daughter up the Leaning Moon Mountain. After logging off the star web, Lin Yuan stretched his body. He had already made arrangements for tomorrow. After treating the fei in the morning, he could just meet Lu Jia in the afternoon. However, Lin Yuan had forgotten about Qing Rui, whose eyes had turned from jealousy to resentment. It was at the royal capital's Creation Master Association. Baiduan was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 104. Early the next morning, sunlight shone into the pavilion that Lin Yuan was staying in. Genius curled its 2 small white tails and lay on Lin Yuan's stomach. Perhaps Genius felt that Lin Yuan's clothes weren't comfortable enough when it was sleeping last night, so it used its small claws to lift up the clothes on Lin Yuan's stomach. Genius was currently lying on Lin Yuan's stomach and was having a beautiful dream along with Lin Yuan's breathing. Chimey was also sleeping soundly on Lin Yuan's neck. Chimey hadn't logged onto the star web ever since it arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace. Therefore, it didn't know how much turmoil had happened on the star web during its disappearance. It was fine on the first day that Chimey disappeared, and many people treated it as a normal host's discontinuation. However, when it was close to a week, Chimey's fans were in an uproar. This included the Radiance 100 Sequence 87, Lord Ranger, who had always been beside Chimey. All of this had nothing to do with Lin Yuan and Genius. The trio of trash back then had already changed, and they were all extremely valuable. After Lin Yuan woke up, Genius and Chimey followed his movements and woke up as well. Genius and Chimey had been tormenting Lin Yuan since early in the morning. Genius was rather steady, but Chimey was extremely mischievous when it threw a tantrum. Only after Lin Yuan fed Genius the cane loofah's fruit and Chimey the celery vine's vine did it stop. This was the first time Genius and Chimey had eaten such good food, and their eyes were glistening while they ate with a satisfied expression. Lin Yuan placed Red Thorn into the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box on his chest. As a source seed, Red Thorn knew what was the most suitable food for it. Lin Yuan had planned an evolution path for Red Thorn, so the insect corpses in the Fey storage box could simply be considered a paradise for Red Thorn's evolution. After eating a large number of insect corpses yesterday, Red Thorn had fallen into a deep sleep. Over the past few days, Red Thorn had reached Elite 7 and flawless. Lin Yuan had asked Red Thorn to slow down its evolution speed and enhance its quality. With a large amount of alien insect flesh, Lin Yuan believed that Red Thorn would soon become an elite/epic existence. The people on the Leaning Moon Mountain had already gotten to know Lin Yuan. It was not that Lin Yuan deliberately wanted to get to know the people on the Leaning Moon Mountain, but the people on the Leaning Moon Mountain were all scrambling to get to know Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. It might not have been officially announced, but smart people could tell Lin Yuan's identity on the Leaning Moon Mountain. Moreover, in a place like the Leaning Moon Mountain, who would be stupid? In the morning, Lin Yuan did not eat breakfast on the Leaning Moon Mountain. Instead, he went down the mountain early after greeting the Moon Empress. It was Lin Yuan's first time coming to the royal capital. Previously, he had only been on the back of the Blue Jade Pegasus to see the prosperity of the royal capital. Lin Yuan had long wanted to walk around the streets of the royal capital and take a look. Now, there was finally a chance. The prosperity seen in the capital and the prosperity seen on the back of the Blue Jade Pegasus were two completely different things. Walking on the streets of the royal capital and feeling the vitality of the vibrant royal capital early in the morning, he couldn't help but feel a little more lively. Lin Yuan saw a small store selling fried golden and tough deep-fried dough sticks and sesame balls, so he walked in. At first, he ordered a fried dough stick, a sesame seed ball, and a bowl of soy milk. There were plenty of customers sitting around. After Lin Yuan ate all of them, he rubbed his stomach and didn't feel full at all. He simply ordered a steamer of soup dumplings. Lin Yuan realized that after drinking the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, his appetite had increased significantly. After finishing his meal, he used his star web card to settle the bill. When he walked out of the store, Lin Yuan didn't realize that since he was eating, plenty of people in the store were looking at him. Even their eating speed had increased. When the lady boss, who had been busy in the kitchen, saw this scene, she couldn't help but mutter. Is this what it means to be a feast for the eyes? Being handsome can also be a good meal? The number of customers in the breakfast store didn't increase, but it seems like the sales are 50% higher than usual. After exiting the store, Lin Yuan saw a young couple after taking a few steps. The woman twisted open the cola in her hand and drank a mouthful. She looked at the bottle cap and blinked her big eyes. Hubby, what's another bottle? The man looked at his girlfriend and said casually, Hubby, what's another bottle? I don't know either. Thus, the woman simply tossed the bottle cap on the ground, and the two of them walked forward. Lin Yuan took a look at the bottle cap on the ground and then at the royal capital's main street. The main street was practically spotless, and only this red bottle cap seemed a little out of place. Lin Yuan simply went forward to pick up the bottle cap on the ground and was about to throw it into the trash can at the side. That big-eyed girl knocked on her boyfriend's chest and said excitedly, The bottle cap I took earlier said, Thank you for your patronage. The bottle cap I took just now was filled with, Thank you for your patronage. We made a bet earlier that you would treat us tonight. I told you that someone would definitely pick it up. Lin Yuan was currently tossing the bottle cap into the trash can when he felt a group of crows flying over his head. Lin Yuan really wanted to go forward and say, I didn't read the words on the bottle cap. However, Lin Yuan didn't do so, as it would make him look like a dumb idiot. This adulterous couple was truly ruthless. After showing off their love, they still wanted to butcher him. Lin Yuan picking up the bottle caps on the ground was actually a kind of habit. Just like the street in front of the Xia region store, Lin Yuan had to clean up all the dirty things himself. If he didn't clean up, the cleaning staff would come once a week. It was fine for the first few days, but on the third day, the dust on the ground would affect the mood of the customers who came to the store to purchase goods. Therefore, Lin Yuan would sweep the street in front of the store every 2 days and throw the dirty things into the trash can. After accumulating for a long time, Lin Yuan had formed a habit. Lin Yuan arrived at the street corner and booked a speed-hoofed donkey cart. Thick-hoofed donkey carts could no longer be seen in the royal capital. The thick-hoofed donkey was an elite fei and was rather slow. The speed-hoofed donkey carts in the royal capital were all bronze feis, and their speed wasn't just slightly faster than the thick-hoofed donkey carts. After riding on the speed-hoofed donkey cart for close to an hour, Lin Yuan finally arrived at the royal capital's Creation Master Association. The royal capital's Creation Master Association was much further away than he had imagined. Of course, it also showed that the royal capital was truly huge. Lin Yuan's chest was wearing a Class 2 Creation Master crest, and when he entered the royal capital's Creation Master Association, someone immediately welcomed him. Lin Yuan had booked an ordinary Class 2 Creation Master's breeding room and had just booked a room. Lin Yuan saw the bad-tempered woman bringing along an extremely thin and weak girl with dull eyes as they carefully stood in the corner of the hall. Seeing that Lin Yuan was looking at the mother and daughter, the attendant that was in charge of receiving Lin Yuan quickly said, "They said that they have made an appointment with a Creation Master." They said that they had made an appointment with a Creation Master and had let them in. "If you feel uncomfortable, I can immediately chase them out." Lin Yuan quickly shook his head. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a rather familiar voice. Who is the one receiving these two people? Why is the Creation Master Association allowing anyone to enter, and why are they standing in the hall? Do they have an appointment? Lin Yuan looked towards the direction of the voice and saw that it was Cheng Rui. However, the current Cheng Rui wasn't like how he was a few days ago. He was insufferably arrogant and domineering. Baidu, go and read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 105. Lin Yuan frowned. Cheng Rui's insufferably arrogant and domineering words were truly grating to the ears. It was as if he was treating the violent-tempered woman and her daughter as inferior beings. He didn't even treat the two of them as his own kind, because that was the only way he would have such a gaze and tone. The management of each Creation Master Association would be different. The management of the Creation Master Association was mostly based on the current manager's decision. For example, the Redbud City's Creation Master Association was very relaxed with regards to the participants of the Creation Master exam. They would just need to show 3 pieces of proof of passing the primary lifestyle class Spirit Chi exam to register for the exam. However, before the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association verified the validity of the 3 lifestyle class Spirit Chi exams, the examinees weren't allowed to enter the Creation Master Association. Furthermore, the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association had already cancelled the Knowledge Occupation Assessment Service in the Creation Master Association. In comparison, the Redbud City's Creation Master Association was much more amiable. The harsh management rules of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association had imperceptibly pushed the already high status of Creation Masters even higher. Not friendly at all. The staff member beside Lin Yuan, who had just received Lin Yuan, quickly jogged over and bowed to Cheng Rui. Young Master Cheng and his daughter said that they have an appointment with a Creation Master, so I asked them to come in and wait. Cheng Rui glanced at the mother and daughter in disdain and asked, "What is the name of your Creation Master? Report your name and let little Zhang verify it." The attendant who had been serving Lin Yuan earlier, little Zhang, quickly patted his chest and guaranteed. Then, he secretly glanced at Lin Yuan, who he had thrown there, but he did not move. In Xiao Zhang's heart, Lin Yuan might be a new Class 2 Creation Master, but he was still incomparable to Cheng Rui, even though he was young and had a lot of talent. In fact, it wasn't mainly about talent. Cheng Rui's status was already there. Not only was he the #1 Creation Master of the younger generation, but he also had the title of Feng Yang when he was just a Class 2 Creation Master. More importantly, Cheng Rui's grandfather was a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master. Just based on this point alone, none of the attendants in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association wouldn't bother to curry favor with Cheng Rui. For a moment, the bad-tempered woman was dumbfounded. She had communicated with Lin Yuan on Star Web, and she only knew his name on Star Web. However, he couldn't possibly say Lin Yuan's name on Star Web, right? If he were to say it out loud, he would probably be kicked out as a troublemaker. Cheng Rui saw that the person in front of him didn't speak for a long time, so he threw the document in his hand on the table. The girl, whose eyes did not have any luster to begin with, was so frightened that she huddled tightly in the arms of the violent-tempered woman. Her fiery and shrewish temperament had been completely hidden in the Creation Master Association. Therefore, when Cheng Rui threw her, her body trembled. Cheng Rui glanced at Xiao Zhang and shouted, "Get them out. If they dare to cause trouble in the Creation Master Association, they will not be allowed to enter the Creation Master Association for the next year." The violent-tempered woman was so anxious that her forehead was covered in sweat. Her daughter's face source was damaged, and she could not delay any longer. If he delayed any longer, he would be wasting his daughter's potential. In the span of a year, he saw that his daughter's eyes had become dull and lifeless. The violent-tempered woman felt as though a knife was twisting in her heart. Lin Yuan was extremely furious, and his opinion of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association had become extremely bad. It was obvious that this wasn't Cheng Rui's first time doing such a thing. However, the upper echelons of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association would definitely see such an action. Therefore, they could only tacitly approve of such actions. Just as Xiao Zhang was about to throw a tantrum, Lin Yuan stepped forward and said, "The Creation Master he made an appointment with is me. I have already booked the breeding room. Bring us there immediately." When the violent-tempered woman saw Lin Yuan, her eyes instantly had luster. She quickly pulled her daughter and called out to Lin Yuan, "Master." When the attendant, Xiao Zhang, saw Lin Yuan, he was also delighted as he finally didn't have to chase people out. The people who came to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association were either experts or were respectfully invited in. They were also spirit chi professionals who were here to evolve phase and improve their phase quality. Of course, there were also those who had saved up for a long time to heal phase with damaged sources. Of course, there were also some phase that had been saving for a long time to heal their damaged roots. The world of spirit chi professionals was realistic, but the world of creation masters was even more realistic. The world of spirit chi professionals was realistic, but the world of creation masters was even more realistic. The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association was a perfect example of the saying, "A penny stumps a hero." Cheng Rui's insufferably arrogant and domineering expression suddenly crumbled upon hearing Lin Yuan's words. In an instant, the resentment spread from the bottom of his heart to his eyes. Just as Xiao Zhang was about to bring Lin Yuan to the breeding room, he didn't expect to hear Cheng Rui's strange laughter. Cheng Rui walked closer and was less than 1 meter away from Lin Yuan. He looked at the Creation Master crest on Lin Yuan's right chest and said, "That's right. I thought you would have won if you had stayed back that day. So you didn't succeed either." When a low-class Creation Master had a master, if the Creation Master was a Class 4 or above Class 4 Creation Master, then as a master-disciple relationship, the disciple's Creation Master crest would have the Master's mark. After Cheng Rui found out that he didn't have the chance to become the Moon Empress disciple, his Class 2 Creation Master crest now had a spine goo pattern on the 2 stars. The spine goo was vivid and lifelike, and the golden rings on its body were carved with great detail. Cheng Rui had already become the disciple of his grandfather. His Creation Master crest naturally had the mark of a pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master, Cheng Wu. Cheng Rui had only worn this new Creation Master crest for a few days. Now that he saw that Lin Yuan's crest was empty, Cheng Rui felt secretly pleased. At the same time, the resentment gave birth to malevolence and cruelty. Cheng Rui knew that he wasn't a match for Long Tao and couldn't do anything to Long Tao. Therefore, all the resentment was transferred to Lin Yuan. Cheng Rui suddenly turned to look at the violent-tempered woman and said, "You are calling him master? Is he even worthy? Is he even worthy? He's just a lucky bastard." Just as Cheng Rui finished speaking, he heard a pleasant voice that was clean and clear. However, it was very piercing to Cheng Rui's ears. Good luck is also a kind of ability. Class 2 Creation Masters are still far from being worthy of being called master. Therefore, I would rather not be worthy. Cheng Rui was in disbelief. He had already investigated Lin Yuan's background. Lin Yuan was merely from a small place like Redbud City's Xia region. How could someone from such a small place dare to be so rude to him? He actually dared to talk back. Cheng Rui subconsciously replied with the most classic and simplest vulgar greeting to his mother. Before Cheng Rui could react, he was kicked in the stomach by Lin Yuan, and he fell out. Biyao was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 106. Cheng Rui was dumbfounded by the kick and felt a cramping pain in his stomach. This was the first time in Cheng Rui's life that someone had kicked him in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground. There was only one thought in Cheng Rui's mind, and it kept repeating. How dare he? After consuming the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, Lin Yuan's spirit chi professional rank didn't increase and was still a C rank spirit chi professional. However, Lin Yuan's physical body had evolved, and his strength had increased significantly. When he kicked Cheng Rui with anger, Cheng Rui had suffered a significant injury. If Cheng Rui wasn't a C rank spirit chi professional, he would probably have vomited his stomach juice and bile. The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association's receptionist, Xiao Zhang, didn't expect someone to make a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. It was especially so for Cheng Rui. Xiao Zhang quickly went forward to support Cheng Rui, but Cheng Rui's pale face was clutching his stomach. Even with Xiao Zhang's support, Cheng Rui couldn't get up. The bad-tempered girl and the bad-tempered girl were also shocked by this sudden change. After Lin Yuan kicked, his expression was still very unpleasant. His parents' affection had always been the most sacred place in his heart. Although he had lost his parents at a young age, Lin Yuan, who had transmigrated, remembered every scene of his childhood in his heart. After Cheng Rui cursed at his family, Lin Yuan had angrily kicked him. Lin Yuan had always been a good-tempered person. He had been supporting a Fei store since young and had to deal with different customers every day. Even so, when the sacred place in his heart was violated, Lin Yuan's angry kick contained all the strength in his body and wasn't careless. This was also the first time Lin Yuan had hit someone in his 18 years of life. After a long moment, Cheng Rui finally stood up with Xiao Zhang's support. Cheng Rui gritted his teeth and looked at Lin Yuan viciously. You actually dared to hit me. Not only that, but you also dared to make a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. How dare you? After speaking, Cheng Rui pushed away Xiao Zhang and said coldly, Why are you still supporting me? Hurry up and call the law enforcers over. Hurry up and call the law enforcers over. Even if a Class 2 Creation Master makes a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association, he can forget about leaving. Just as Cheng Rui finished speaking, he suddenly heard an old and furious voice. Cheng Rui. You are crazy. What are you yelling about? Lin Yuan looked toward the voice and realized that he had seen the person before. It was Elder Du, whom he had met in the Radiant Moon Palace. Elder Du walked to Lin Yuan's side and smiled. Lin Yuan, why didn't you inform me in advance that you are coming to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association? If you want to come again, just look for me inside. I will arrange anything for you. Lin Yuan might have a very bad impression of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. However, Lin Yuan still nodded and greeted the Class 4 Creation Master. Elder Du. Cheng Rui was shocked and furious at the same time. When he saw Elder Du's attitude toward Lin Yuan, he couldn't help but recall everything that had happened in the Radiant Moon Palace. He shouted at old Du, Elder Du, he actually dares to make a move in the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. We must punish them severely. Otherwise, what prestige does the Creation Master Association have? Old man Du frowned as he looked at Cheng Rui unhappily. He was cursing Cheng Rui in his heart. It was precisely because of this brat who didn't know how to weigh the consequences that he was held accountable by Blue Moon Emissary, and a disaster nearly befell him. But now, Cheng Rui was still unrepentant. What was he up to now? Jianghu might have arrived at the royal capital's Creation Master Association, but he had been in seclusion ever since he arrived. Old Man Du had yet to tell Jianghu about Qingrui. Qingrui might be a member of the royal capital's Creation Master Association, and Jiang Yi was the vice president of the royal capital's Creation Master Association. However, Qingrui was still the grandson of Qingwu, a pinnacle class 4 creation master. Old Man Du knew that if he rashly disciplined Qingrui, Qingwu would have a bad opinion of him. Thus, Elder Du had been waiting for Qingwu to come out of seclusion for the past few days. But now, Qingrui was provoking them again. Old Man Du said coldly, "Qingrui, how many times have you fought in the guild? If I want to deal with someone, I'll deal with you first." Elder Du looked at the surrounding Creation Master Association's law enforcers and yelled out, "Disperse! What's the point of making such a ruckus in the hall?" Then, he asked the receptionist, Xiao Zhang, who was standing at the side, to clarify the situation. Elder Du was the vice president of the Creation Master Association, and Xiao Zhang didn't even have the chance to chat with him. Now that Elder Du asked, little Zhang explained everything in detail, including Lin Yuan's request. The more Elder Du listened, the worse his complexion became. In the end, his face completely darkened. He glared fiercely at Qingrui and said to Lin Yuan, "That's right. Come, I will personally bring you to my breeding room. Feel free to use it." Lin Yuan shook his head and pointed at the violent-tempered woman. "There is no need to trouble Elder Du. I just want to help my friend heal a Fei's damaged roots. A normal breeding room is enough." Old Man Du laughed and said, "What's so troublesome about that? Since that is the case, I will bring you to the Class 2 Creation Master's breeding room. It just so happens that I am going upstairs as well." After speaking, Elder Du brought Lin Yuan upstairs. The violent-tempered woman followed behind, completely frightened. The conflict was actually resolved by the vice president of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. Moreover, they seemed to be completely biased towards the youth who was walking forward in front of him. Just what kind of background did this youth have, and how much power did he have? In fact, the violent-tempered woman wasn't the only one who was thinking this way. The members of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association were also looking at the young man's vanishing figure. Qingrui was left standing on the spot with a gloomy expression, his hands still clutching his stomach where he had just been kicked. Qingrui simply didn't know what Elder Du was thinking. Just by looking at the Creation Master crest on Lin Yuan's chest, he knew that Lin Yuan didn't even become the Moon Empress disciple. If Elder Du knew what Qingrui was thinking, his suppressed anger would probably burst out and send a slap over. Elder Du had already noticed the Creation Master crest on Lin Yuan's chest. However, not all Creation Masters would allow their disciples to wear an emblem with their own mark after accepting a disciple. Some Creation Masters would choose to let their disciples wear normal emblems in order to temper them. They wouldn't enjoy special privileges. Apart from that, some disciples wouldn't wear the Creation Master crest with their master's mark on their chest either. Not everyone wanted to rely on their master's glory and wanted to rely on themselves to walk their own path. For example, the Moon Empress, Bamboo Monarch, and Chef Supreme would never wear the Radiance Federation's only 3 Class 5 Creation Master crests on their chests. Could it be that the Moon Empress, Bamboo Monarch, and Chef Supreme weren't Creation Masters? However, Elder Du had overestimated Qingrui. A person like Qingrui, who couldn't wait to display all his glory and trump cards on his face, naturally wouldn't understand. Elder Du had just returned from the outside to send off Ling Xiao, who was preparing to return to Redbud City. Elder Du knew that the youth in front of him wasn't that ordinary youth anymore. He was an invaluable noble. Baidu wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 107. Qingrui silently left the hall on the first floor of the Creation Master Association. He immediately went to the breeding room where his grandfather was in seclusion. Just as he was hesitating if he should open the door to call for his grandfather, Qingrui had a complicated expression that was a mixture of resentment and timidity. He gritted his teeth and prepared to push the door, but it opened by itself. An elder with shiny black hair walked out of the door. Ching Rui didn't expect his grandfather to end his seclusion at this moment and quickly called out. "Grandfather, your hair is completely black after this seclusion. You have improved again." The elder laughed, but his laughter was a little feminine. During this seclusion, the gold ring spine goo has evolved from Fantasy 4 to Fantasy V. I didn't waste 10 years of effort. Ching Rui had a delighted expression when he heard the elder's words, but he then spoke with a pitiful expression. "Grandfather, take a look at the Creation Master crest on my chest. I didn't succeed in becoming a disciple of the Moon Empress." The elder looked at Ching Rui's finger and frowned. "The Royal Capital's Creation Master Association has already given you a title when you were a Class 2 Creation Master. They even addressed you as the #1 Creation Master of the younger generation, but you still failed?" After speaking, the elder looked at the crest on Ching Rui's chest and continued, "Also, change the crest on your chest. Also, change the crest on your chest. Wear a normal Class 2 Creation Master crest. I am your grandfather, so why are you wearing this crest to acknowledge me as your master? Finding a master is to give you an additional reliance. Elder Du treats you rather well. I will go and meet Elder Du later and see if he is willing to accept you as a disciple." Ching Rui took off the crest on his chest embarrassedly. But when his grandfather mentioned Elder Du, Ching Rui's expression changed. If his grandfather went to meet Elder Du would definitely tell his grandfather about his performance in the Radiant Moon Palace. Ching Rui would definitely suffer a beating. But now, Ching Rui hated Lin Yuan to the extreme. He couldn't help but harden his heart. He rolled his eyes and said, "Grandfather, the Moon Empress didn't like me in the Radiant Moon Palace mainly because of a youth that Redbud City Lordess Ling Xiao brought over." Ching Wu's eyes contracted as he knew his grandson too well. If there was a grudge, he would have taken it in person. If Ling Xiao was looking for Ching Rui now, it meant that Ching Wu couldn't resolve the matter and was asking for help. What kind of background does Ling Xiao have to bring him to the Radiant Moon Palace? Ching Rui told him about Lin Yuan's background. Lin Yuan's information was not difficult to find. When Lin Yuan had registered as a Class 2 Creation Master, the Redbud City's Creation Master Association already had his simple information. Ching Wu looked at Ching Rui. "Can't you deal with a junior Class 2 Creation Master? Do you still need to look for me?" Ching Rui suddenly squeezed his eyes and squeezed out 2 drops of tears. Elder Du admires him quite a bit. Just now when I was kicked by him downstairs, Elder Du defended him. After saying that, he lifted up his shirt. After lifting it up, Ching Rui was startled and cursed Lin Yuan 100 times in his heart. There was a purple footprint on his stomach. Ching Rui knew that his grandfather was most afraid of him crying. Every time he begged his grandfather like this, there was nothing he couldn't do. Moreover, this wasn't the first time they had sought revenge. Ching Wu's face darkened as soon as he saw the footprint on Ching Rui's stomach. He yelled, "That Elder Du invited me to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association to work, and now he is watching someone bully my grandson. He really doesn't respect me, Ching Wu." Ching Wu only had one grandson, and it was Ching Rui's first fei when he was young. Ching Wu had let Ching Rui form a contract with his source-type life form, the gold ring spine goo, and he had suffered a lot. Furthermore, Ching Rui's parents had passed away when he was young, and as a Class 4 Creation Master, Ching Wu didn't spend a lot of time with Ching Rui. Therefore, he had always felt that he owed Ching Rui. Now that he saw the purple footprint on his grandson's stomach, Ching Wu's ruthless personality caused his eyes to turn gloomy. Ching Rui let out a breath of relief in his heart. After seeing his grandfather's expression, Ching Rui knew that his grandfather would definitely help him take revenge. "Grandfather, don't blame Elder Du, this Lin Yuan kid has rather good talent," Ching Wu said with a sinister tone. "What's the use of having good talent? Being able to grow up is one's ability. I've taught you before that you either have to endure or be ruthless. Have you forgotten all that?" Ching Rui quickly said, "Grandfather, I have remembered it. Grandfather, I will remember it." That's why I want to personally trample on him. I want to watch as the spine goose slowly eats through his spine. After exchanging a few sentences, the grandfather and grandson duo left the royal capital's Creation Master Association silently. Right now, Lin Yuan was inspecting the pitiful fei in his hand. It was a bronze tough leaf chrysanthemum. A healthy tough leaf chrysanthemum was considered a rather good power offense type fei. The chrysanthemum leaves could be thrown out like a flying knife, causing lacerating damage and having a slight numbing toxicity. The chrysanthemum petals could rapidly gather energy and shoot out the toxic energy. However, the tough leaf chrysanthemum's rhizome had already withered, and the flower looked like it was dehydrated and was drooping. The chrysanthemum's petals had almost fallen off, and only a few petals were left on the stamens. The violent-tempered woman stood nearby and asked Lin Yuan carefully with apprehension. "Master, is there a possibility for this tough leaf chrysanthemum to recover?" When asking this question, the violent-tempered woman's heart tightened. Previously, she had also looked for a creation master and spent half a year to use her connections. She had also spent a lot of money to request for a Class 2 creation master. In the end, the answer was no. She didn't know if the Class 2 creation master found it troublesome to treat it or simply didn't want to. Of course, regardless of the reason, the violent-tempered woman wasn't qualified to go. This was the law of survival between spirit chi professionals and creation masters. Lin Yuan looked at the tough leaf chrysanthemum's condition and nodded without any hesitation. It can be treated. The tough leaf chrysanthemum might look like it was on the verge of death, but it wasn't a problem for Lin Yuan to treat a bronze fei with his current ability. With Lin Yuan's current ability, it wasn't a problem for him to treat a bronze fei with damaged roots. When Lin Yuan was a D-rank spirit chi professional, it was already a piece of cake for him to treat a bronze fei with damaged roots. It was a good opportunity for him to see how fast he could treat a bronze fei with damaged roots after becoming a C-rank spirit chi professional. Just as Lin Yuan nodded, the violent-tempered woman suddenly cried. It was as though she had been suppressing herself for a long time. While crying, she was smiling. These were tears of joy that were mixed with sorrow and joy. The eyes of the young girl in the violent-tempered woman's embrace were originally dark and lifeless. But just as Lin Yuan nodded, the young girl's eyes suddenly lit up as she stared fixedly at Lin Yuan. Her face revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. When Lin Yuan saw this smile, he felt moved for a split second. This smile seemed to have the light of surviving a calamity. This made Lin Yuan even more determined to walk on the path of a creation master. The path of a creation master wasn't to stand on a high place and look down on the masses. Instead, it was a path of evolution and salvation that was built behind a smile. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 108. Lin Yuan didn't know what to say to the mother and daughter who were expressing their emotions. Lin Yuan wasn't a person who was adept at handling emotions. Therefore, he didn't know how to console others when they were emotional outbursts. He might as well just say it. Go to the lounge outside the breeding room and wait. I will need some time. Wait for me to repair the tough leaf chrysanthemum's damaged roots before coming in. Right now, the best consolation for the violent-tempered woman and her daughter was for the tough leaf chrysanthemum's damaged roots to recover quickly. When the violent-tempered woman heard Lin Yuan's words, she quickly scratched her head and thanked Lin Yuan repeatedly. She then brought her daughter to the lounge outside the breeding room. At that moment, Lin Yuan calmed his mind and circulated the spiritual power in his body to circulate the spirit qi. He channeled the spirit qi into the withered tough leaf chrysanthemum. During the process of circulating the spirit qi, Lin Yuan could clearly feel that his spirit qi circulation speed was several times faster than before. After the tough leaf chrysanthemum received the nourishment from the spirit qi, it immediately showed changes. The first to recover was the tough leaf chrysanthemum's rhizome. The withered rhizome rapidly grew out white root tissues. In just a short moment, the white root tissues had replaced the withered rhizome. Lin Yuan used his hand to rub, and the withered black rhizome turned into fragments and fell off. The tough leaf chrysanthemum's petals were constantly growing out new petals. In just a short moment, the tough leaf chrysanthemum's petals had more or less recovered. However, the color of the petals was still a little pale. Lin Yuan took a cup of spring water from the breeding room's table and placed the tough leaf chrysanthemum's roots into the spring water before continuing to circulate the spirit qi. In less than 20 minutes, the tough leaf chrysanthemum had recovered its damaged roots. This time, Lin Yuan didn't use the pure land of bliss to recover the tough leaf chrysanthemum. During the Class 2 Creation Master exam, Lin Yuan had used 2 hours. During the Class 2 Creation Master exam, Lin Yuan had used 2 hours to recover the sheer pincer's crab's damaged roots. This was the time Lin Yuan needed to use Morbius' exclusive skill, the Pure Land of Bliss. If he didn't use Morbius' exclusive skill, the Pure Land of Bliss, he would need 4 hours. Right now, without the Pure Land of Bliss, Lin Yuan only needed over 20 minutes to recover the bronze phase damaged roots. In other words, after becoming a C-rank spirit qi professional, the time he needed to recover his bronze phase had been reduced by nearly 10 times. This was also related to the bowl of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar he had consumed to purify his body's impurities. Even so, it had to be said that after becoming a C-rank spirit qi professional, Lin Yuan's ability as a creation master had undergone a drastic change. If Lin Yuan were to participate in the exam now, he might still be a little inferior to the Class 3 Creation Master exam, but the difference wouldn't be huge. After sensing the tough leaf chrysanthemum's condition, Lin Yuan let out a breath of relief. The tough leaf chrysanthemum's flowers were plump at the moment, and the leaves on the stem were also very large. They were shuttle-shaped, and the edges looked quite sharp. However, this tough leaf chrysanthemum was severely dehydrated due to the damage to its roots. Even now, it still needed a lot of water. At this time, the tough leaf chrysanthemum had already absorbed more than half of the spring water. Lin Yuan continued to circulate his spiritual power. He originally wanted to assist the tough leaf chrysanthemum to quickly replenish its water, but he felt that he had vaguely encountered a rather obvious boundary. Lin Yuan was very familiar with this boundary. Lin Yuan observed the tough leaf chrysanthemum. It turned out that this tough leaf chrysanthemum was already a 10-star bronze fei, and it was just a step away from silver. Now that Lin Yuan felt this boundary, he might as well quickly circulate his spiritual power. He pushed the spiritual power towards this boundary. Soon enough, just as the spiritual power broke through this boundary, the bronze tough leaf chrysanthemum was extending and evolving. It grew from 30 centimeters to over half a meter, and its branches and leaves had also become more luxuriant. The newly grown stem was filled with new leaves, and there was originally only 1 flower. Now, there were 8 flower buds on the newly grown stem, and the flower buds were slowly unfolding. However, the newly grown tough leaf chrysanthemum's flower was much smaller than the previous one. Lin Yuan believed that as long as he nurtured it for a period of time, these flowers would grow to the same size. Lin Yuan used true data to look at the tough leaf chrysanthemum and couldn't help but reveal a satisfied smile. Fei name, tough leaf chrysanthemum. Fei species, chrysanthemum genus/chrysanthemum family. Fei grade, silver, 110. Fei type, grass. Fei quality, normal abilities. Frowny face. Leaf blade, the leaves on the stem shoot out and perform long-range physical damage. Flower bud cannon, the flower condenses energy to launch a toxic energy attack. Corrosion flower petals, the petals scatter to perform an area of effect attack. The petals have paralyzing and corrosive properties. Exclusive skill. Frowny face. Increased toxicity, strengthens the body's toxicity, allowing the body's poison effects to deepen. The tough leaf chrysanthemum was a fei that relied on its own toxicity to kill other feis apart from some simple physical attacks. However, the tough leaf chrysanthemum's poison only had paralyzing properties. When combined with the bronze exclusive skill, increased toxicity, the tough leaf chrysanthemum would be able to produce decent damage. The silver ability, corrosion flower petals, allowed the tough leaf chrysanthemum's poison system to add a corrosive property to the paralyzing poison. When combined with the exclusive skill, increased toxicity, the tough leaf chrysanthemum's attack would immediately increase by a notch. The paralyzing poison would only have a control effect, and its lethality would be very weak. However, the corrosive poison would be fatal. The silver ability was able to produce a very good area of effect attack, and it could be used with the leaf blade or the flower bud cannon. It could be said that the tough leaf chrysanthemum's evolution was very successful. Lin Yuan's objective for coming to the Creation Master Association was to promise the violent-tempered woman to heal her daughter's fate. Now, he had fulfilled the promise. Lin Yuan felt that it was rather troublesome to use the breeding room in the Creation Master Association. Therefore, if he was going to accept another request to heal Fays with damaged roots, he would have to wait until his store was officially opened. Right now, Lin Yuan was still mainly accepting requests for custom-made Fays or precious Fays nurturing and sales. From there, he could quickly accumulate radiance dollars. Cultivation itself was a process of not advancing or regressing. Everything in the world was progressing, so if you were stuck at a standstill, you would be regressing. Lin Yuan called the violent-tempered woman and her daughter in. After entering the breeding room, the violent-tempered woman and her daughter were rather nervous. However, when the duo saw the huge tough leaf chrysanthemum on the breeding room's table, they fell into a daze. It looked as though they had seen it before but was completely different from before. Lin Yuan smiled and said to the violent-tempered woman, "You can't even recognize your own Fae? You can't even recognize your own Fae?" Biyao clicked on the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House and read it for free. Chapter 109. The hot-tempered daughter was stunned and urged her spiritual force. The tough leaf chrysanthemum on the table was taken back into the spiritual space without any obstruction. The hot-tempered daughter was surprised at first, but then she opened her mouth and said in surprise, "This tough leaf chrysanthemum is obviously bronze, but now it has actually become silver." Lin Yuan nodded. The potential of this tough leaf chrysanthemum is not bad. The lethality of a silver rank skill is not bad. Coupled with the other skills of the tough leaf chrysanthemum, the tough leaf chrysanthemum has been improved in all aspects. The next time I encounter a horned demon, I won't suffer any damage to its origin. The violent-tempered woman hurriedly bowed to Lin Yuan and thanked him repeatedly before taking out the revival soil that she had prepared. But he also said with some embarrassment, "Master, this is the resuscitation soil that we agreed upon earlier. A pack is 500 grams, but I managed to get some extra, so this pack is 600 grams in total. However, I haven't prepared the reward for upgrading the tough leaf chrysanthemum from bronze to silver, so I'm not sure if you can give me a few more days." Lin Yuan took the revival soil and waved his hand. "The extra 100 grams of revival soil is more than enough for you to pay me. Besides, it was my own decision to help the tough leaf chrysanthemum evolve to silver. I didn't ask for your opinion beforehand, so I don't need any more compensation." A bag of revival soil wasn't cheap. It was extremely beneficial to plant-type phase, so its price wasn't any lower than gold-grade dragon beast blood. This bag of 600 grams of revival soil would probably cost close to 300 radiance dollars. The price of a bronze fey that could heal damaged roots might be lower than other creation masters, but it wasn't much lower. The violent-tempered woman must have spent a lot of effort to find this bag of revival soil. After saying that, he did not give the violent-tempered woman and her daughter a chance to thank him. Lin Yuan had already left the breeding room with the revival soil. The violent-tempered woman's daughter was completely immersed in the joy of the Fae's recovery and evolution, but the violent-tempered woman's eyes were moist again. Living in the capital seemed to be glorious, but who could understand the pain and pressure of an ordinary woman raising her daughter without experiencing it for themselves? Countless indifference caused the violent-tempered woman to wear a mask on her face. The mask was hard to protect the weak body behind it. But now, he felt a warm ray of light that was peaceful and full of strength. A young and talented creation master actually had such a kind nature. This kind of nature was extremely rare and precious even at a glance. Lin Yuan walked out of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association's entrance, and before he even took a few steps, he heard someone calling out to him from behind. Lin Yuan turned around and noticed that the person who had called out to him was Elder Du. Old Man Du quickly came over and said with a laugh, Leaving so soon? I will give you this card. The next time you come to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association, just take this card, and the lobby's receptionist will bring you to me. In the future, if you have any matters, I will bring you along to do them. Lin Yuan received the card from Elder Du. Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't refuse a gift from an elder. However, Lin Yuan didn't plan to return to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. However, Lin Yuan said, "Don't worry. I'll have to trouble you, Elder Du. Elder Du is usually so busy, this junior naturally wouldn't dare to disturb you." As Elder Du looked at Lin Yuan, the smile on his face grew brighter. Ever since Lin Yuan had rescued him from the Radiant Moon Palace, coupled with his unhurried bearing and his talent to pass the Class 2 Creation Master exam, Elder Du had been admiring Lin Yuan more and more. He couldn't help but compare Qing Rui in his heart and felt that Qing Rui was completely inferior. When he thought of the Fengyang title that he had personally bestowed upon Lin Yuan, Elder Du felt a burning pain on his face. After bidding farewell to Elder Du, Lin Yuan looked at the time and realized that it was only 10 in the morning. The appointed time to meet Lu Jia was at 3 in the afternoon, and there were still 5 hours in between. Lin Yuan didn't have any other arrangements, so he simply contacted Lu Jia. After making the call, Lin Yuan found out that Lu Jia was currently looking at a house in the Royal Capital's suburbs. The house was located in a rather remote location in the suburbs, but the environment was beautiful. Rather than calling it a house, it was actually a plot of land that occupied nearly 5,000 square meters. There was also a small man-made lake beside the land, and the water in the lake was mountain spring water that was drawn down from the mountains. The surrounding greenery was also very good, and it was considered a place with great scenery. Due to the remoteness, this huge plot of land wasn't considered too expensive. Lin Yuan decided to meet Lu Jia in advance and take a look at this plot of land. After asking for the location, Lin Yuan booked a special transportation tool in the royal capital, the wind pigeon. The wind travel pigeon was a flying fei unique to the royal capital, and it was very difficult to tame. A special windwalk pigeon trainer was required. After 2 years of training, the windwalk pigeon could officially carry passengers. The wind travel pigeon was a very popular flying type fei in the royal capital. Its specialty was that it didn't require anyone to pilot it. The trainer of the wind travel pigeons only needed to tell the wind travel pigeons where to pick up people and where to send them. The wind travel pigeon was a silver fei that had evolved from a carrier pigeon before the spirit chi awakening. The flying speed was not considered fast, but it was not cheap. A round trip would cost 0.5 radiance dollars. But now that he was in the royal capital, he had to try out the specialties of the royal capital. It was said that sitting on the back of the wind pigeon was more comfortable than lying on the softest bed. Lin Yuan did not wait for long before a white pigeon with a wingspan of nearly 3 meters stopped beside him. Lin Yuan walked forward and showed the order on the mobile phone screen to Wind Pigeon. The wind travel pigeon immediately shook its wings and placed them on the ground, indicating for Lin Yuan to step on its wings and get on its back. When Lin Yuan sat on the wind travel pigeon's back, he felt that the feathers on the wind travel pigeon's back were thin and soft. They didn't feel like ordinary feathers and were somewhat like smooth, superior silk. The wind travel pigeon didn't fly high or fast, but its speed was more than 5 times faster than the speed-hoofed donkey cart. Another specialty of the wind travel pigeon was its sightseeing nature. Its purpose might be to hurry, but it could allow the people on its back to enjoy the royal capital's beautiful scenery. After flying out of the royal capital's city area, Lin Yuan arrived at the northern suburbs of the royal capital. Based on the wind travel pigeon's speed, it would take around 10 minutes to reach the agreed location with Lu Jia. Lin Yuan looked at the scenery of the royal capital's suburbs. The wind travel pigeon flew at a height of around 25 meters, and the towering greenery in the royal capital's suburbs, such as willows, could even grow up to 20 meters. When flying at such a low altitude and breathing, his lungs would be filled with the fragrance of plants. At that moment, the wind travel pigeon suddenly let out 2 intense coos. Immediately after, Lin Yuan saw a gray energy beam strike the wind travel pigeon's left wing. The beam's impact was extremely strong, and Lin Yuan felt a burst of pressure. The wind travel pigeon's left wing and the left side of its body exploded with a mist of blood. Baidu, go read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 110. After encountering such a sudden attack, the wind travel pigeon quickly flapped its right wing and cooed as it descended. When it was descending, the wind travel pigeon even turned around to look at Lin Yuan anxiously. When it was 3 to 4 meters above the ground, the wind travel pigeon seemed to have lost all its strength. At the final moment, the wind travel pigeon flipped its right wing to protect Lin Yuan. It then fell on the ground, bringing up dust, and was dead. In fact, when the wind travel pigeon flipped its right wing to protect Lin Yuan in mid-air, it had already lost its life. From a high altitude to its final defense, it was actually to protect a stranger. It was all because of a fae that remembered the trainer's mission and the wind travel pigeon's professionalism as a flying fae. Lin Yuan was protected by the wind travel pigeon's right wing, and with its body acting as a buffer, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. However, the impact of falling from a high altitude made Lin Yuan slightly uncomfortable. Lin Yuan already understood that he had been targeted. Lin Yuan didn't usually incur enmity with others, so the person that ambushed him could only be Cheng Rui. When Lin Yuan came out from under the wind travel pigeon's right wing, he saw the wind travel pigeon lying on the ground with its eyes closed forever. Its left wing and body were injured from the explosion, and with the impact of falling to the ground, the wind travel pigeon's remaining body was in an abnormally sorry state. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard an arrogant and vicious voice. "You didn't expect it, right? If you dare to kick me, I will take your life." Cheng Rui spoke in a sinister tone. Lin Yuan saw an elder standing beside Cheng Rui, and the elder also had a gloomy expression. The elder's facial features were rather similar to Cheng Rui's. A multi-legged insect species fae that was the length of a forearm was crawling on the elder's shoulder. It was obvious that the earlier gray energy was emitted by this insect species fae. When Lin Yuan saw this insect species fae, it looked rather familiar. It was obvious that this insect species fae was an enlarged version of the spine goo. However, this spine goo had more golden rings on its body compared to the spine goo that Cheng Rui had summoned during the duel. These rings were gold in color and looked very strange on the sinister spine goo. Lin Yuan didn't hesitate and immediately circulated his spiritual power to summon Red Thorn and Chimey. At the same time, he transformed his intelligence tool into a pair of glasses and wore them on his face. At this moment, the elder beside Cheng Rui said to Cheng Rui, "You can't even defeat such an ant whose strongest combat power is only a bronze fae? You actually still need to look for me. If not for the fact that you want to take revenge personally, the gold ring spine goo would have easily blasted this kid and that unlucky wind travel pigeon into smithereens." Cheng Rui summoned his fae, a gold spine goo. The gold spine goo crawled out from Cheng Rui's mouth, causing him to grimace in pain. "Grandpa, if it weren't for someone protecting him, would have taken care of him long ago," Cheng Wu urged with a frown. "Then hurry up and make your move. This is the royal capital's suburbs, after all. If you don't hurry up and make a move on a Class 2 creation master, it will definitely cause a commotion." Every creation master was the Radiance Federation's wealth, so killing a creation master wasn't a small matter in the Radiance Federation. Cheng Rui sneered as he stepped forward and looked at Lin Yuan. "With your creation master talent, you are qualified to be brought to the Radiant Moon Palace. Not bad. Elder Du is also protecting you, but when your talent is destroyed and your limbs are removed, I want to see what else you can be proud of." At this moment, Lin Yuan released the Spirit Gather Goldfish's exclusive skill, Spirit Chi Imprint. During this period of time, the bronze Spirit Gather Goldfish's accumulated Spirit Chi suddenly burst out from the Spirit Chi imprint on Lin Yuan's back. At the same time, Chimey quickly released Turbulence. It also used Sound Thrust to attack Cheng Rui. Lin Yuan poured all the spiritual power in his body into Red Thorn's body. Red Thorn's sharp vines were covered with barbed spikes, and they rapidly grew to wrap around Cheng Rui. Lin Yuan's body had a massive amount of Spirit Chi, allowing red thorns vines to instantly grow to nearly 20 meters in length. Just as Lin Yuan's all-out attack was about to hit Qingrui, he heard a cold snort. The gold ring spine gu on Cheng Wu's shoulder let out a roar. A pale gray energy turned all of Lin Yuan's attacks into nothingness. The gray energy severely injured Red Thorn, Chimey, and Genius. Genius couldn't even maintain tool transformation and fell beside Lin Yuan's shoulder. Lin Yuan felt intense pain all over his body, and a warm current surged up in his abdomen. He then spat out a mouthful of blood. Lin Yuan already knew that he was doomed and had no room to resist. Therefore, he used all his strength to attack Qingrui. However, he did not expect that his all-out attack would be overturned by the gold ring spine gu's energy. Qingrui was drenched in cold sweat. Lin Yuan's sudden attack was right in front of him and had nearly killed him. This made Qingrui alarmed and afraid, and the resentment in his eyes intensified. Qingrui did not expect that his carelessness would nearly result in his death by Lin Yuan's attack. Qingrui's fright instantly turned into monstrous hatred. This hatred dyed the resentment with the color of madness as he shouted. If I don't pierce your spine with the spine gu, my surname isn't Cheng. You can slowly die in the pain of the spine gu gnawing on your spine. Lin Yuan struggled to get up from the ground. The intense pain in his body made Lin Yuan feel as though he could fall down at any moment. Lin Yuan used his hand to wipe the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth. This action affected his internal injuries, causing Lin Yuan to spit out another mouthful of blood. At the same time, the severely injured Chimey, Genius, and Red Thorn stood up. They looked at Qingwu and Qingrui, who were in an attacking stance. Qingrui went forward and kicked at Lin Yuan, but before Qingrui's leg could touch Lin Yuan, Red Thorn spat out a mouthful of corrosive liquid. Qingrui was already prepared. He brandished the spine gu's leg blade to block Red Thorn's attack and even severed several of Red Thorn's vines. But just as the spine gu attacked Red Thorn, Chimey let out a weak chirp. At such a close distance, 3 sound thrusts flew at Qingrui. It gave Qingrui a fright. However, a strong wind blocked Chimey's sound thrusts. At the same time, Lin Yuan, Chimey, Genius, and Red Thorn were sent flying a few meters away. Lin Yuan struggled to stand up again, but he couldn't. He looked at Red Thorn, Genius, and Chimey, who were also sprawled on the ground. Lin Yuan circulated the remaining spiritual power in his body. He recalled Genius, Chimey, and Red Thorn back into his spiritual spatial zone. Lin Yuan looked at the noon sun in the sky and felt that the sun wasn't as glaring as it usually was. At this life and death juncture, Lin Yuan suddenly felt that the wind beside his ears was very light. Qingwu frowned as he looked at Qingrui with a disappointed expression. You nearly died in the hands of this ant twice. Don't you understand the logic of a lion using its full strength to capture a rabbit? Let me teach you another logic, and that is what it means to be quick and hateful. Just as Qingwu finished his statement, the sinister gold ring spine gu on Qingwu's shoulder rapidly shrunk and flew towards Lin Yuan's spine with an ear-piercing sound. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly saw that the imperial capital sky seemed to darken at once. A new moon hung high in the sky, and its radiance nearly covered the noon sun. A shocked and angry voice exploded in the sky. How dare you! Baidu clicked on the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House and read it for free. Chapter 111. At noon, the sun was shining brightly in the sky. A bright moon shone brightly in the sky, its moonlight shining like silk. At that moment, several experts in the royal capital lifted their heads at the same time. They looked at the cold moon that covered the sun in the sky. One of them looked like he was in his 30s, but his eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life. He was holding an emerald bamboo and frowning with an aghast expression. It's the Moon Empress Cold Moon Lone Disk. The Moon Empress Fei, the Cold Moon Lone Disk, specialized in killing. What exactly made the Moon Empress take out the Cold Moon Lone Disk? Beside the man holding the emerald bamboo was a middle-aged man in red armor who was holding a black chess piece. However, just as the cold moon soared into the sky, the black chess piece landed on the chessboard and disrupted the black and white chess pieces on the chessboard, disrupting the chess game that was about to determine the victor. Bamboo Monarch, has the Moon Empress Cold Moon Lone Disc reached the myth stage? Just by looking at the might of the Cold Moon Lone Disc, I wonder how much stronger it is compared to back then. The Bamboo Monarch held the emerald bamboo and spoke with a grave expression. You know the Moon Empress temper. Once the Cold Moon Lone Disc appears, I'm afraid something big will happen. While speaking, the Bamboo Monarch had already turned into an afterimage and headed toward the place where the cold moon's brilliance was shining. The man in red armor was also like a phantom as he followed the Bamboo Monarch toward the moonlight. The Spirit Guard's headquarters was considered the place with the strongest combat strength in the royal capital. Several people with Spirit Guard's badges were walking in and out of the Spirit Guard's headquarters. In the chief hall of the Spirit Guard's headquarters, a thin and masked woman's eyes flashed. Through the window, she looked at the cold moon and said, "The distant sky, the high moon. The distant sky, the moon high up in the sky. You have restrained your brilliance for 10 years. Why are you making a move now? I hope it won't be like back then." After speaking, the black-clothed woman vanished from the chief hall. A few pieces of paper fell from the table and looked lonely. In the royal capital's Radiance Royal Court, an elder was sitting on the throne. There were two middle-aged men sitting on the left and right of the throne, and they were equally imposing. The elder looked at the sudden appearance of the cold moon and tapped the table with his fingers while holding his forehead. He turned his head and looked at the two middle-aged men on his left and right. After pondering for a while, he said to the man on his left with a cold expression, "Iron Prison, go and see what's going on. Why is the Moon Empress so angry? Thousands of fallen trees and thousands of mountains, the sky is vast, and the moon is clear on the river. The Moon Empress's radiant moon's wrath must not burn like it did 10 years ago." The golden-armored man stood up from his seat on the left and said coldly, "Yes." Then, the left-hand seat was empty. The golden-armored man had disappeared. The man on the right-hand seat who seemed to have a smiling face couldn't help but ask, "Let Iron Prison go. You know Iron Prison's temperament. Aren't you afraid that Iron Prison will anger the Moon Empress even more?" The old man glanced at the man on his right who seemed to have a smiling face and said, "Cicada Ming, if it wasn't for Iron Prison, the person who infuriated the Moon Empress wouldn't have any chance of survival." The smiling man said indifferently, "The Moon Empress won't get angry easily. The appearance of the cold moon lone disc has already shown her killing intent. Anyone who dares to provoke the Moon Empress will naturally have to pay the price, even if it is Iron Prison. Therefore, I better go and take a look." The old man went silent for a moment and nodded. The moment the old man nodded, the smiling man disappeared from his seat. A loud explosion echoed in the sky as the moonlight from the cold moon shone down. Lin Yuan felt that the moonlight's radiance seemed to have healing effects. In just a moment, the pain in his body and the intense burning pain in his body slowly disappeared with the moonlight's nourishment. However, Qing Rui and Sheng Wu felt completely different. Qing Rui and the spine goo on Sheng Rui's body instantly turned into nothingness when the moonlight shone on them. Sheng Wu's diamond/fantasy V gold ring spine goo was also fixed in midair by the moonlight and was unable to move. Even though the gold ring spine goo was a diamond/fantasy V source-type life form, the cold moonlight shone on its body. Even though the gold ring spine goo was a diamond/fantasy V source-type life form, its tentacles, legs, and carapace were gradually turned into nothingness by the moonlight's radiance. Sheng Wu's body was also undergoing a miraculous transformation under the moonlight's radiance. Qing Wu felt his body burning, but the burning didn't feel any pain. However, Qing Wu could clearly feel his body's cells constantly disappearing. In just a moment, 3 of his left hand's fingers had already turned into nothingness. Qing Wu immediately shouted, "Moon Empress, please show mercy. I don't know what mistake I have made. Moon Empress, please show mercy." The Moon Empress actually came personally. A woman in moonlight robes stood in midair under the moonlight's radiance. In the blink of an eye, she was already standing beside Lin Yuan. On the woman in the moonlight robes was a little rabbit that was eating a carrot. The little rabbit took a glance at Lin Yuan and scuttled onto his body. It used its little claws to scratch the carrot for a long time before grabbing a small piece of carrot skin. It looked at the carrot skin with heartache and looked at Lin Yuan with disdain. When it raised its head and saw the Moon Empress looking at it, the little rabbit reluctantly placed the carrot skin into Lin Yuan's mouth. In an instant, Lin Yuan's body, which was constantly recovering under the moonlight's radiance, was completely healed. Lin Yuan could still strongly feel that his body had immediately recovered to its peak state as soon as the radish skin entered his mouth. Even Red Thorn, Chimey, and Genius, which were injured in his spiritual spatial zone, were instantly healed. When the little rabbit saw that Lin Yuan had recovered, it immediately pried open Lin Yuan's mouth. It took out the carrot skin from Lin Yuan's mouth and rubbed it on its body before carefully pasting it on the carrot. Lin Yuan stood up and saw the Moon Empress looking at him with eyes filled with concern. Before Lin Yuan could speak, the Moon Empress spoke with self-reproach. When you went out, I should have gotten Cold Moon or Black Moon to follow you. I was negligent. I didn't expect someone to actually dare to make a move in the royal capital's suburbs. As the word "make a move" came out, the Moon Empress' commanding aura was accompanied by the moonlight, as though it was going to shatter the rainbow that pierced through the sun. Jianghu was currently circulating all the spiritual power in his body in an attempt to resist the all-pervasive moonlight. He wanted to summon the Fantasy V Gold Ring Spine Goo, but the Gold Ring Spine Goo, which was immobilized by the moonlight, didn't move at all. When the Moon Empress was speaking to Lin Yuan, Jianghu's entire body was drenched. The fear that was emitted from the depths of his soul occupied his mind, and he immediately knelt on the ground. Everything that he wanted to say couldn't be said. When Qingrui was evaporated by the moonlight, Jianghu's heart was alarmed and sorrowful. But now, Jianghu was gnashing his teeth with hatred for his own grandson. Qingrui actually sought revenge on the Moon Empress. That seemingly insignificant kid actually had a powerful background like the Moon Empress. If it was during normal times, Jianghu wouldn't even have the time to curry favor with her. Now, he had actually taken the initiative to bump into the muzzle of the most untouchable existence in this world. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 112. The Moon Empress looked at Jianghu, who was kneeling on the ground, and raised her hand expressionlessly. The Fantasy V Gold Ring Spine Goo let out a mournful wail when it was entangled by the silky moonlight. Even if the Gold Ring Spine Goo was a Diamond Fantasy V Fae, it couldn't even put up any resistance against the silk-like moonlight. He even wanted to let out a sorrowful cry, but the sound was completely stuck in his throat by the moonlight, and he couldn't spit out a single sound. Under the tranquil and beautiful moonlight hid the most merciless and sharp killing intent. The Moon Empress didn't give Jianghu any chance to explain. However, when Jianghu felt the state of the Gold Ring Spine Goo, he felt a little distressed. He forcefully propped himself up and kowtowed repeatedly. I beg the Moon Empress to spare my life. I, Jianghu, am willing to serve the Moon Empress for the rest of my life. The Moon Empress' face was bone-chilling, but her voice was still gentle. However, her gentle voice revealed unreserved killing intent. The Moon Empress paused before continuing. When you wanted to kill this Empress disciple, you should have known that those who kill will be killed. You're not worthy of obeying this consort's orders. Repent under this moonlight. When Jianghu heard the Moon Empress' words, his eyes immediately turned sluggish. He even forgot to circulate his spirit qi for a moment. Under the moonlight, one of his arms disintegrated into nothingness. The Moon Empress didn't conceal the killing intent in her words, and Jianghu knew that he couldn't escape this calamity. Jianghu didn't expect that the kid he viewed as an ant was actually the Moon Empress disciple. If it was some other relationship, he might be able to keep his life. He had just made a move on the Moon Empress disciple, and it was a lethal blow. Had it not been for the Moon Empress obstruction, Lin Yuan's spine would have been hollowed out by the gold ring spine goo. At this thought, Cheng Wu's heart turned to ashes. Just as Cheng Wu felt like he was about to disappear under the moonlight, an emerald green bamboo leaf suddenly appeared and hovered above his head. The emerald green bamboo leaves emitted a bright green light, helping Cheng Wu block the moonlight. But after a few seconds, under the dense moonlight, the bamboo leaf also gradually disappeared. Finally, after a few seconds, it also completely disappeared under the moonlight. A white-clothed middle-aged man holding an emerald green bamboo appeared beside Cheng Wu. He kicked Cheng Wu's body and sent him flying over a dozen meters away, allowing Cheng Wu to leave the place with the densest moonlight. Shortly after, a man clad in crimson armor appeared beside Cheng Wu. With a wave of his hand, he used his spiritual power to help Cheng Wu resist the moonlight, which was not too dense. "Empress," the Empress quickly said. "Moon Empress, if the moonlight emitted by the cold moon alone will continue shining, Cheng Wu will truly vanish. I hope that Moon Empress will reconsider." As he spoke, the crimson-armored man shot out another streak of spiritual qi, which landed on Cheng Wu's body. The spiritual power circulated through Cheng Wu's body for a while, but Cheng Wu's injuries did not heal at all. A look of shock appeared on the red-armored man's face. He had long heard of the Moon Empress Cold Moon Lone Disk's incredible tactical characteristics. Wu might was and on, and suddenly, Wu, moon, out, and moon. Cheng Wu might be a pinnacle class 4 creation master, but his contracted Fei was only a source-type life form. Cheng Wu's contracted gold ring spine goo was able to enhance a creation master's abilities, but it wasn't proficient in combat. However, it was still a Diamond Fantasy V source-type life form. It couldn't resist the moonlight at all. The crimson-armored man's heart trembled at this thought. Although his combat ability was much stronger than Cheng Wu's, he couldn't help but wonder how long he could withstand the moonlight and the cold moon hanging high in the sky. When the Moon Empress saw that someone had suddenly appeared to protect Cheng Wu, she couldn't help but frown. Just as the Moon Empress was frowning, the moonlight that filled the sky faintly showed signs of boiling. At this moment, the man with the bamboo in his hand coughed and said, "Moon Empress, Cheng Wu is a pinnacle class 4 creation master after all. Even if Cheng Wu really offended the Moon Empress has already punished him. One of Cheng Wu's hands is gone, so can you give this lord some face and spare Cheng Wu's life?" As soon as the bamboo monarch finished speaking, he saw the Moon Empress' expression and silently cursed. The Moon Empress' hands weaved the sky, and the moonlight shuttled back and forth in her hands, bringing with it the coldness of the moon. The Moon Empress sneered. "Give face to you, bamboo monarch? When did I, the Moon Empress, give face to others? Could it be that bamboo monarch wants your purple bamboo forest to have the same sun and moon in the sky for a month?" The Moon Empress' 3 questions caused the bamboo monarch to reveal a helpless expression. However, the bamboo monarch knew the Moon Empress' temper very well. It was probably impossible for the Moon Empress to spare Cheng Wu on his account. But even so, after the bamboo monarch glanced at Cheng Wu, he frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, "Every pinnacle class 4 creation master is the Radiance Federation's wealth. Therefore, this lord wishes to ask the Moon Empress to show mercy again." The Moon Empress said coldly, "The Radiance Federation's wealth? Since when could the Radiance Federation's wealth make a move on a young class 2 creation master? This kind of wealth has already decayed." The bamboo monarch then looked at Lin Yuan, who was standing beside the Moon Empress. He looked at the bloodstains on Lin Yuan's body and the dark red blood on the ground. It was obvious that the blood hadn't dried up yet, and the blood was bright red. It was obvious that his internal organs had ruptured, causing him to vomit blood. The bamboo monarch used his peripheral vision to glance at Cheng Wu. The disgust in his eyes was self-evident as he spoke to Lin Yuan in a gentle voice. "This young friend, Cheng Wu made a move on you, but the Moon Empress stopped him. How about I get Cheng Wu to compensate you with some spiritual ingredients and treasures? I will make the decision and resolve their hatred. He will not find trouble with you in the future. Lin Yuan was originally shocked that he actually saw the Class 5 Creation Master, the Bamboo Monarch. 2 of the 3 Class 5 Creation Masters of the Radiance Federation had already appeared. However, when Lin Yuan heard the Bamboo Monarch's words, he felt as though he was bathing in the spring breeze. Addressing him as a young friend might sound cordial, but could Lin Yuan really reject such words? Before Lin Yuan could speak, the Moon Empress' hand radiated with brilliance as she clenched her fist. The Fantasy V Gold Ring Spine Goo was originally enveloped by the moonlight, but now, the moonlight suddenly surged and became restless. The restless moonlight sublimated the Diamond/Fantasy V Gold Ring Spine Goo into the air. It turned into an untraceable speck of dust. Can I understand that the Bamboo Monarch is making things difficult for this Empress disciple? When meat rots, worms emerge. When fish wither, caves appear. What is rotten must be removed. Don't tell me Mr. Bamboo is still thinking of making flowers bloom from rotten wood. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 113. When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress' words, he felt warmth in his heart. The Bamboo Monarch's words might be gentle, but they were unquestionable. A single statement from the Moon Empress had completely protected him. When the Bamboo Monarch found out that the youth standing beside the Moon Empress was the Moon Empress disciple, his face revealed a trace of astonishment. He smiled and said, "Congratulations to the Moon Empress for obtaining an outstanding disciple." At that moment, the Bamboo Monarch knew that it was useless no matter what he said. Cheng Wu's attack on the Moon Empress disciple was simply courting death. The Moon Empress had sublimated Cheng Wu's source-type life form, the Gold Ring Spine Goo, under the moonlight. The Bamboo Monarch didn't stop it. However, after the Gold Ring Spine Goo vanished, Cheng Wu's originally pale face turned even paler, and he was covered in fine cold sweat. The Gold Ring Spine Goo's death had caused Cheng Wu's spiritual energy to suffer severe damage. At that moment, Cheng Wu wasn't just suffering from physical injuries, but the damage to his spiritual energy was making him wish he was dead. At that moment, there was a charming voice that echoed from the sky. A masked, black-robed woman was stepping on the air and approaching. The Moon Empress sure has a good method to sublimate this Gold Ring Spine Goo. Cheng Wu only contracted this source-type life form in his entire life, and now that the Gold Ring Spine Goo is dead, I wonder if the Moon Empress' anger has subsided. The black-robed woman's face was covered, and her expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, she looked at the Moon Empress with a rather complicated expression. The Moon Empress lifted her head and looked at the black-robed woman with a complicated expression. Her expression didn't change. What does this Empress' anger have to do with you? Why isn't the chief guard presiding over the spirit guards? Are you really free to come here? Lin Yuan lifted his head and looked at the sky. This black-robed woman was actually the chief guard of the spirit guards, and she was a top-notch expert. The black-robed woman was already standing beside the Bamboo Monarch and said, "Moon Empress, this punishment is enough. It is no longer the time when you were young. You are already a Class 5 Creation Master and the Radiance Federation's pillar. You have to be fair with rewards and punishments." Just as the black-robed woman finished speaking, an intense spirit chi fluctuation came. The golden-armored middle-aged man was already standing next to the crimson-armored man. He walked past the crimson-armored man and picked up Cheng Wu, who was lying on the ground. Chief Guard Yi is right. Cheng Wu is a Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master certified by the Creation Master Association. Even if he is in the wrong, he needs to be judged first before the reward and punishment can be decided. Now that the Moon Empress has already punished him, leave the rest to me. The red-armored man had already appeared in front of the Bamboo Monarch in a flash. He hurriedly distanced himself from the golden-armored man and cursed inwardly. Why is Iron Prison here? Since he dared to speak to the Moon Empress in this manner, wasn't he just asking for trouble? With Iron Prison's way of doing things, he would probably be too rigid and easy to break after encountering the moon. The red-armored man glanced at Bamboo Monarch and realized that Bamboo Monarch's expression wasn't good when he looked at Iron Prison. He did not know that the Bamboo Monarch was cursing in his heart. Iron Prison's way of doing things was so direct that there was no order to it at all. His straightforwardness could be said to be forceful, but if he were to use his forcefulness against the Moon Empress, then what was he if not an iron fool? The Moon Empress disciple had nearly been killed by Jianghu, and now that Iron Prison was here, he actually objected to the Moon Empress orders. Even he didn't dare to do so. Jianghu had also returned to his senses and recalled that he was still an esteemed Pinnacle Class 4 creation master, and he was still very useful to the Radiance Federation. Thinking of this, Jianghu's heart lit up, and he looked at the golden-armored man who was grabbing him. "Lord Iron Prison, please save me." Then, he turned to look at the Moon Empress. "Moon Empress, Jianghu, know my mistake. I am willing to offer all my wealth to your disciple. I only beg you to spare my life." When Iron Prison heard Jianghu shout out to save him, his expression turned ugly. Although Iron Prison didn't know how to be flexible, he understood that this would make it seem like he was standing on the opposite side of the Moon Empress. However, Iron Prison did not throw Jianghu away. Instead, he continued with a cold expression. "The Moon Empress has already punished him. The reward and punishment must be clear." The Moon Empress sneered and stood in the air. The dense moonlight seemed to have turned into a solid substance as it swept at Iron Prison. This Empress is the Moon Empress, so the reward for Jianghu is also a punishment, and the punishment is also a reward. How can there be a clear reward and punishment? Since you want to take Jianghu away, let's see if you, Iron Prison, have the ability to do so. Wherever the Moon Empress moonlight swept, there would be moonlight ripples. It was extremely beautiful, but everyone who saw it had a stern expression. At this moment, Iron Prison suddenly mobilized his mental strength. As he mobilized his mental strength, a prehistoric dragon beast that was about 40 meters long appeared on the ground. The dragon beast spat out energy in preparation to defend against the incoming moonlight. When the Moon Empress saw that Iron Prison had summoned a fae, her eyes flashed with a cold light. At the same time, the bright moon in the sky suddenly shone brightly. The moonlight rippled like water, and within the rippling light, a barefooted young lady wearing a dress made of cold moonlight suddenly appeared. She was walking down from the moon step by step. The young lady's long hair was the extremely dense moonlight. Her beautiful face had a 70% resemblance to the Moon Empress. The instant the young lady walked down from the moon, there seemed to be a group of twinkling stars hidden in the moonlight. In an instant, the 40-meter-long prehistoric dragon beast let out a mournful cry and was thrown far away. At that moment, the Bamboo Monarch and the black-robed, masked woman each released a stream of energy. They helped the prehistoric dragon beast to block the moonlight's attack. The Bamboo Monarch looked at the Moon Empress and spoke with shock and surprise. "Moon Empress, your cold moon lone disk has reached Myth 2. The scarlet-armored man beside the Bamboo Monarch looked at the young lady who walked out of the moonlight, and his eyes flickered. Myth 2, a fae turning into a human. This also meant that when a fae reached Myth 2, it would be able to turn into a human. The Moon Empress stood in the sky and sneered. "Bamboo Monarch, you old thing, your Point Inc. Imperial Bamboo was already a myth breed a few decades ago. This Empress doesn't believe that the Point Inc. Imperial Bamboo hasn't reached Myth 2 in the past few decades." The Moon Empress looked at the Bamboo Monarch and the black-robed, masked woman. "Since you want to make a move against me, this Empress won't be polite. This Empress hasn't appeared for 10 years. And even my old friends don't respect this Empress." After speaking, the Moon Empress lifted her shoulder. The eyes of the little white rabbit that was nibbling on the carrot instantly turned purple, and the fur on its body was about to turn purple. At that moment, a voice suddenly echoed from the sky, and it sounded rather urgent. A man with a smiling face was anxiously shouting at the Moon Empress. "Moon Empress, have you forgotten about the incident 10 years ago? You have been in seclusion for the past 10 years. Isn't it because you can't forget that incident 10 years ago?" The voice was very urgent. When the Moon Empress heard this, her expression froze, and she remained silent for a moment. With a wave of her hand, the lone moon in the sky instantly vanished, and the noon sun became as dazzling as usual. The Moon Empress turned around and pulled Lin Yuan to soar into the sky. Without looking at the people behind her, her cold voice echoed faintly. Jianghu plotted to murder this Empress disciple, the Radiance Federation's Class 2 creation master, Lin Yuan. He deserves death for his crime. Since you are using the incident 10 years ago to poke at this Empress' sore spot, Jianghu shall be imprisoned in the sin-cleansing pond. After pausing for 3 seconds, the Moon Empress continued speaking. You won't come out unless you die. This is this Empress' greatest leniency. Biyao immediately read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 114. After the Moon Empress brought Lin Yuan back to the Radiant Moon Palace, she carefully checked on his injuries and said with concern, "It's my fault. When you went out, I didn't even think of letting anyone follow you and gave you a fright. But it's also good. This matter will teach you something that I don't know how to teach you." The Moon Empress paused for a moment and looked into Lin Yuan's eyes seriously. In this world, all worldly possessions are not as good as one's strength. Lin Yuan nodded after hearing the Moon Empress' words. At that moment, Lin Yuan looked at the Moon Empress with a completely different gaze. Although Lin Yuan knew that he wanted to recognize the Moon Empress as his master, he was still in the process of adapting. After all, the establishment of an unfamiliar relationship could never be completed overnight. But now, when Jianghu tried to kill him, he had no room to retaliate. It was the Moon Empress Moonlight that saved him and protected him among the current world's absolute experts. If it wasn't for him, why would the Moon Empress make things difficult for Jianghu? Why would there be this gathering of the current world's experts? It was an indescribable feeling of being touched. A sour feeling of facing the world since he was 8 years old and seeing the truth of the world, but suddenly being protected in a crisis arose spontaneously. Lin Yuan had nowhere to vent this feeling and could only suppress it at the bottom of his heart. The unfamiliar word master was suddenly engraved in Lin Yuan's life in the past 18 years. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan looking at her, she frowned and looked at him with concern. "It's true that I will be frightened when I encounter this for the first time, but it won't happen again. I still have master." The corners of Lin Yuan's eyes were sour, but it was very dry and wouldn't flow out. His eyes were dry, but the warmth in his heart didn't lessen. Lin Yuan pursed his lips for a long time. He wanted to open his mouth but couldn't make a sound. After a while, he said, "I'm not afraid anymore. I know that in this world, one's own strength will always be the foundation for one's survival." The Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan had recovered so quickly and nodded with satisfaction. Lin Yuan was thinking about the unforeseen event that many experts vaguely mentioned 10 years ago. However, it was impossible to find such information on Star Web that involved top-notch experts. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw the Moon Empress handing over a box. There were 3 crests in the box, and they were the same crests that Lin Yuan had obtained after passing the Class 2 Creation Master exam. It was just that each badge had a crescent moon engraved with exceptionally exquisite runes on it. Lin Yuan received the box from the Moon Empress. Then, he looked at the Moon Empress and addressed her as master. The Moon Empress' cold face revealed a smile. Then, he handed Lin Yuan a token that was warm to the touch and as white as jade. 2 crescent moons were engraved on the jade tablet. The upper and lower crescent moons were intertwined, giving off an ancient vibe. "This is the Radiant Moon token. Previously, you rejected me every time I tried to give you something. Now that you've gone through the apprenticeship ceremony, I don't know what to give you. Take this Radiant Moon token. If you need any spiritual materials, you can take this Radiant Moon token and choose from the Radiant Moon Palace's spiritual material warehouse." Lin Yuan solemnly received the Radiant Moon token from the Moon Empress. After experiencing this unforeseen event, Lin Yuan's mentality was already different. Before he had been assassinated by Jianghu, he had been thinking of relying on his own efforts to walk down the path one step at a time. Lin Yuan might still be thinking like this, but his mind was more flexible. Previously, he had been obsessed with relying on his own strength to collect spiritual materials, and it was indeed right. Now that he had gone through the apprenticeship ceremony, the Moon Empress was his rightful master. Lin Yuan knew that his greatest difficulty now was the collection of spiritual materials, which was why his phase had yet to evolve to legend. As a result, Lin Yuan had 3 willpower runes, but he had nowhere to use them. It was especially so for the Jasmine Lily, which was already at Bronze X/Epic. It was just lacking a few spiritual materials to evolve to legend. After fusing with the willpower rune comprehended in the mountains and rivers, it would evolve into a fantasy breed. That way, Lin Yuan would be able to possess a fantasy breed Fey at Bronze. Previously, Ling Xiao mentioned that the earlier a Fey evolved into a fantasy breed, the greater its potential. Therefore, Lin Yuan was very ambitious and wanted to evolve Red Thorn from Bronze to Legend. Once Red Thorn reached Legend, it would fuse with the willpower rune comprehended in the murderous intent and become a fantasy breed. The 3rd willpower rune was the one that Lin Yuan had comprehended while observing the day and night. Although this willpower rune was somewhat compatible with Chimey, it was more or less lacking in meaning. Chimey's exclusive skill, Clear Sky, was the power of the sun. However, this willpower rune alternated day and night, so Lin Yuan decided to use it for another purpose. Lin Yuan could still contract a Fey or an origin life form that had an extremely low spiritual energy requirement. Until now, Lin Yuan had not been in a hurry to form a contract. If there was a suitable Fey that was suitable for comprehending the willpower rune during the alternation of day and night, Lin Yuan did not mind having one more Fey. After being attacked by Jianghu, Lin Yuan had long regarded increasing his strength as the most important thing. It was not difficult for Lin Yuan to increase his strength, and he just needed time. Therefore, Lin Yuan had already adjusted his previous plan in his heart. For the next year, Lin Yuan had already set his goal on increasing his strength. With the Radiant Moon Palace's spiritual ingredients, Lin Yuan believed that he would definitely have a metamorphosis during this year. When the Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan did not reject and accepted the Radiant Moon token, she was very happy. Go and have a good rest for 2 days. Your physical injuries might have recovered, but if there is any mental discomfort, tell me. As a teacher, the Moon Empress knew that there were some things that she was unable to teach. For example, the first kill or escape after being killed for the first time. These mental changes required the spirit chi professional to overcome on their own, and the teacher could only guide them. After leaving the Moon Empress inner palace, Lin Yuan returned to his pavilion. Lin Yuan sat on the chair, and his mind was still thinking about the gold ring spine goo that flew at his neck like lightning. However, Lin Yuan was not timid and only had courage. This experience would invisibly spur Lin Yuan on and let him know that he had to work hard to become stronger. Lin Yuan entered Morbius' Spirit Lock spatial zone and checked on Red Thorn, Genius, and Chimey's condition. After realizing that Red Thorn, Genius, and Chimey were in good condition, Lin Yuan was finally at ease. Red Thorn's vines that had been severed by the spine goo had also grown out. But at this moment, Lin Yuan suddenly realized that after this battle, Red Thorn's quality had evolved from flawless to epic. He had also reached elite level 9. Lin Yuan's heart was filled with joy. Red Thorn's quality increase might be related to the previous battle, but it was mostly because of the sumptuous meat in the diamond face storage box. Red Thorn relied on devouring to evolve. With a large amount of energy from the meat, Lin Yuan believed that Red Thorn would be able to evolve to bronze grade in 1 or 2 days. It would welcome Red Thorn's first exclusive skill. At that time, Red Thorn would also undergo its first true metamorphosis as a source-type life form. Biyao was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 115. This time, Lin Yuan didn't recall Genius and Chimey into the spiritual spatial zone. He didn't place Genius and Chimey in the pavilion either. Instead, he left it in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan placed the platinum cane loofah and celery vine on the table in the spirit lock spatial zone. In the spirit lock spatial zone, the ordinary wooden table had been soaked in spirit qi that was 10 times higher than the outside world, and it had slowly turned into a jade-like texture and looked very exquisite. Lin Yuan couldn't help but think of putting more wood in the spirit lock spatial zone. After a long time, wood would turn into a jade-like texture. Although jade-like wood didn't have any use, it was very rare. Coupled with its exquisite appearance, it caused its price to be high. In particular, jade-like wood furniture was considered a kind of luxury item. When Genius and Chimey were hungry, it could casually eat the platinum cane loofah and celery vine on the table. After experiencing the battle and seeing Lin Yuan vomiting blood, Genius and Chimey obediently stuck to Lin Yuan's body. Every minute or two, Chimey would chirp and stand on Lin Yuan's ear, asking him to guarantee that it was fine before it could be at ease. Genius squatted on Lin Yuan's shoulder and said, "Lin Yuan, you scared me to death." Lin Yuan scared me to death. I'm useless. I don't have any combat ability. Lin Yuan quickly rubbed Genius' head until it let out a comfortable grunt. Lin Yuan then said, "Don't worry." Lin Yuan then said, "If it wasn't for your tool transformation glasses that allowed me to dodge that chi force at the crucial moment, I might not have been able to get up during the first wave of attacks." Genius is great. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, Genius meowed a few times and climbed onto the table, found a comfortable position, and fell into a deep sleep. When Chimey heard Lin Yuan praising Genius, it chirped and flew to Lin Yuan's ear. Lin Yuan snappily smiled and plucked a piece of celery vine's leaf to feed it. Chimey's sound thrust is great too. If it wasn't for it, Ching Rui wouldn't have been injured. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's praise, Chimey happily ate the celery vine's leaf that was torn into small pieces. After eating and drinking its fill, it flew to Genius' head in satisfaction and nestled in its fur before falling asleep. The previous battle had consumed a lot of Genius and Chimey's mental energy, and the easiest way to recover from such mental energy consumption was to have a good sleep. As for the wind speed rapid antelope that had just been promoted to gold, it was already listed in the Star Web store. There were plenty of people who came to ask for the price, and there were also plenty of people who offered high prices. However, Lin Yuan did not make a move. He walked to the water tank next to the spirit pool and found that many of the 5 fortune ranch's eggs had hatched. Small fishes that were less than half a centimeter long swam back and forth in the tank. When the spirit siphon goldfish had sufficient spirit qi, they didn't need to consume food. However, Lin Yuan still shifted the first batch of hatchlings into another water tank. The vision of the young fishes was very poor, and with the rapid growth of the dense spirit qi in the spirit lock spatial zone, it was very likely that the young fishes would eat the eggs that had yet to hatch. Many normal-grade spirit siphon goldfish in the spirit pool had already evolved into elite-grade spirit siphon goldfish. However, these spirit siphon goldfish only dared to swim around the edge of the spirit pool. Only his contracted spirit gather goldfish, Blackie, could enjoy the vast waters in the middle of the spirit pool. From time to time, he would lower his head to pick up a butterfly shell from the bottom of the pond and swallow it into his stomach. He was very relaxed. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan saw a very interesting scene. Blackie was swimming towards the side of the pool with a butterfly shell in its mouth. With a swing of its tail, it pushed away the elite-grade spirit siphon goldfish on both sides, leaving only the female 5 fortune ranches. Blackie spat out the butterfly shell from its mouth to the side of the female 5 fortune ranches. After watching the female 5 fortune ranches carefully eat the butterfly shell, Blackie then turned its head proudly and returned to the middle of the pool to swim. After the female 5 fortune ranches ate the butterfly shell, it carefully swam towards the middle of the pool. Blackie didn't bother about the female 5 fortune ranches, but when the other elite-grade spirit siphon goldfish swam over, it would mercilessly swing its tail at them. Lin Yuan couldn't help but be flabbergasted, and he couldn't help but recall the adulterous couple when he was picking up the bottle caps. Lin Yuan suddenly felt that his fae had fed him a mouthful of dog food, and he chanted in his heart. Lin Yuan thought in his heart, animals have feelings too, and animals have love too. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard an extremely subtle sound. Lin Yuan turned around and noticed that the blue flash butterfly's cocoon on the table had already cracked open slightly, and a newborn blue flash butterfly was trying its best to crawl out of the cocoon. The newborn blue flash butterfly's wings were still very weak, and they were wrinkled together and couldn't be extended at all. Lin Yuan walked over at that moment, but he didn't do anything. The butterfly spreading wings was the first hurdle in a butterfly's life, and it was also the most difficult hurdle. Many butterflies couldn't surpass this hurdle. However, when this hurdle was truly crossed, there would be no more obstacles for the rest of their life, and they would be able to soar gracefully under the blue sky. When this blue flash butterfly's wings were fully extended, Lin Yuan was stunned. This blue flash butterfly's wings weren't blue, but purple. Lin Yuan was flabbergasted. Without hesitation, he used Morbius' exclusive skill, Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, to bind this purple-winged blue flash butterfly as the spirit-locked Fae in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Even after forming the contract with this blue flash butterfly, Lin Yuan still hadn't come back to his senses. I can't be so lucky to form a contract with the blue flash purple butterfly, which is almost impossible to appear in the blue flash butterfly race, right? The blue flash purple butterfly was a type of blue flash butterfly, or it could be said that the blue flash butterfly was the most orthodox existence. When it was just born, it would undergo an atavism evolution in the butterfly cocoon, awakening the perfect template of the Lepidoptera, one of the 4 major insect eyes. The blue flash purple butterfly was truly too rare, so rare that it only existed in ancient documents before the spirit chi awakening. Most people treated the blue flash purple butterfly as a fae that didn't exist. In the Fae beauty pageant, the blue flash purple butterfly was called a fantasy breed that wasn't a fantasy breed. The blue flash butterfly's evolved form, the blue flash goddess butterfly, had once reached the first place of the Fae beauty pageant because of the blue flash purple butterfly's legend. However, the competition authorities weren't sure if the blue flash purple butterfly truly existed. Just based on ancient documents, it was impossible to prove the blue flash purple butterfly's existence. Therefore, the blue flash purple-winged goddess butterfly's ultimate beauty wasn't recorded in the blue flash goddess butterfly's ranking. Otherwise, the blue flash goddess butterfly wouldn't have fallen out of the top 3 because its abilities weren't strong outside of normal. When Lin Yuan looked at the blue flash purple butterfly and checked its true data, he couldn't help but slap his forehead. It was indeed worthy of being a fae that had undergone a perfect Lepidoptera template evolution in the butterfly cocoon. The normal blue flash purple butterfly's initial ability, Silent Scale Powder, was different from the blue flash butterfly's initial ability, Silent Scale Powder. The blue flash butterfly's scale powder could be dispersed by natural environments like strong wind. It would even be washed away by the rainwater and wouldn't be able to use its silence effect. However, the blue flash purple butterfly's silent scale powder had the strongest characteristic of Lepidoptera's scale powder, which was its adhesion. After coming into contact with the target, the fine scale powder would embed into the target's skin. Unless it was an incineration-type ability like blazing fire that could completely erase the scale powder with strong adhesion, it would be extremely difficult to disperse the scale powder with strong wind's effect. At the same time, when the rainwater soaked the scale powder with adhesion, the scale powder would stick to the skin even more effectively. The blue flash purple butterfly was truly powerful. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh. From now on, the blue flash purple butterfly wasn't just a legend anymore. Lin Yuan had one in his hands. He wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 116. As the blue flash purple butterfly was a perfect variant of the blue flash butterfly, its abilities naturally couldn't escape the curse of the blue flash butterfly. It was still only powerful at normal, and the abilities after normal were still very useless. However, this didn't affect Lin Yuan at all. What Lin Yuan needed was the blue flash purple butterfly's normal initial ability. The blue flash purple butterfly's normal ability, Silent Scale Powder, had excellent adhesion, and such an ability was a divine ability among control abilities. If used properly, it could completely affect the battle situation and catch the opponent off guard. After contracting the blue flash purple butterfly, Lin Yuan started to pour spirit qi into the normal blue flash purple butterfly, which was only half the size of a palm. In less than an hour, the blue flash purple butterfly's body suddenly shook rapidly, sprinkling layers of glittering scale powder. Lin Yuan had already evolved the blue flash purple butterfly from a normal I/normal Fey to Elite X/Epic. Now, Lin Yuan was evolving the blue flash purple butterfly toward bronze grade. The blue flash purple butterfly's shaking body suddenly emitted a pale purple halo. This purple color was very light, but it had an indescribable beauty. If it was turned into a word, it could only be described as indifferent purple. The flickering layers of scale powder on the blue flash purple butterfly's body instantly gushed out and formed a light illusion that was around half a meter in size. Lin Yuan's spirit qi had already broken through the blue flash purple butterfly's barrier. The blue flash purple butterfly had officially broken through to bronze grade. After the blue flash purple butterfly evolved into a bronze grade Fey, it flapped its wings and produced a bluish-purple shadow. It fanned out the scale powder that enveloped its body, and it was like a dream that had suddenly withered and shattered. A blue flash purple butterfly that was more than twice the size of the previous one flew out of the halo. It was even larger than a fist. It landed on Lin Yuan's shoulder. The butterfly on his shoulder was glowing purple, and it looked as though it had ascended to immortality. Lin Yuan was a straight man, and when he saw the bronze blue flash purple butterfly, he suddenly understood why beautiful Fays were so expensive and why people would scramble for them. Just a glance at it was a beautiful experience. The blue flash purple butterfly flapped its wings and danced around Lin Yuan intimately. Since the blue flash purple butterfly had reached epic when it was at elite, it naturally had 3 exclusive skills when it evolved to bronze. Lin Yuan looked at the exclusive skill. Hard scale powder. The scale powder is like fine metal powder. Rubbing against the scale powder may cause cuts on the surface of the scale powder. In Lin Yuan's opinion, this exclusive skill was of little value. The blue flash purple butterfly's silent scale powder needed to be very light so that it could spread quickly. However, not only would the hard scale powder not strengthen the control effect of the silent scale powder, but it would also affect the release and adhesion of the silent scale powder. The appearance of such an exclusive skill was the most lamentable. If the blue flash purple butterfly hadn't evolved from epic at elite, a rare Fey like the blue flash purple butterfly would have been ruined by this exclusive skill. This was also why so many spirit qi professionals wished for their Fays to reach epic quality before evolving from elite to bronze. After skipping the first exclusive skill, he continued to look at the second one. Flashing wings increases the user's flying speed. Combined with the scale powder on the wings, the user's flying speed is extremely fast. This exclusive skill increased the blue flash purple butterfly's survivability. Logically speaking, it was a rather good ability for support-type Fays with control-type abilities, especially Fays like the blue flash purple butterfly that had almost no defense. It could greatly increase the tolerance for mistakes in combat. However, it was useless for Lin Yuan. The blue flash purple butterfly was Morbius spirit-locked Fey, and the Morbius bracelet was on Lin Yuan's hand. Therefore, when releasing the blue flash purple butterfly's ability, Lin Yuan could just raise his hand and release it. Summoning the blue flash purple butterfly to release the silent scale powder would increase the effect of the silent scale powder. However, the flashing wings was not very useful for the blue flash purple butterfly, which didn't need to appear every time it released its ability. Lin Yuan wanted to take a look at the third exclusive skill. If it was still not compatible, he could only choose the versatile flashing wings as the blue flash purple butterfly's exclusive skill. However, when Lin Yuan saw the third exclusive skill, he couldn't help but immediately put on a smile. Scale powder halo. Its scale powder has a powerful reflective effect. The multifaceted reflection of the scale powder will cause the target enveloped by the scale powder to suffer from optical pollution, causing dizziness or even temporary blindness. This ability might be a very useless exclusive skill for other Lepidoptera insects or even other butterfly fays. However, for Lin Yuan, who could only use the blue flash purple butterfly's basic abilities, the scale powder halo was a divine skill. This was because the scale powder halo directly enhanced the control effect of the basic ability, silence scale powder. When the silence scale powder was scattered, the halo would produce a powerful illusory light through optical pollution, causing dizziness or temporary blindness to the target. This exclusive skill allowed the silence scale powder to achieve a kind of dual control. At the same time, the scale powder halo's characteristic was the guarantee of the silence scale powder's effect. The scale powder halo would have the upper hand when controlling the target. When the target recovered, they would have already missed the best time to avoid the silence scale powder. By then, the time needed to remove the silence scale powder would become the time for Lin Yuan's other fays to attack to their heart's content. Fays had different exclusive skills, and each fay had hundreds or even thousands of exclusive skills. It wasn't easy to select a suitable exclusive skill from them. In fact, some fays would specifically grind out the bronze exclusive skill before contracting a fay. However, it was easier said than done to grind out a specific exclusive skill among the hundreds or thousands of exclusive skills. Lin Yuan couldn't help but think of the braised egg head. She had already agreed to kill almost the 15th wave of web-spraying spiders. However, even after killing dozens of web-spraying spiders, the braised egg head still hadn't obtained the exclusive skill, transparent spider silk, that she wanted. Lin Yuan felt that he had experienced two miracles from the moment he broke out of the cocoon. One was that the blue flash purple butterfly's cocoon had actually produced a blue flash purple butterfly that was only 1 in 10 million. The other miracle was that when Lin Yuan enhanced the blue flash purple butterfly, he actually obtained such a compatible exclusive skill. The blue flash purple butterfly had just reached bronze grade, and the silence scale powder's effect wasn't considered strong yet. However, if the blue flash purple butterfly matured, it would definitely be a very powerful control ability on the battlefield with the scale powder halo's silence scale powder. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 117. Lin Yuan had sent a message to Lu Jie when he had returned to the Radiant Moon Palace. After experiencing a life-and-death calamity, Lin Yuan was not in the mood to look at houses anymore. It just so happened that he could enhance the blue flash purple butterfly from bronze I/normal to bronze X/epic. As for evolving the blue flash purple butterfly to silver, he did not have such a consideration now. This was because the blue flash purple butterfly's future potential was related to when it advanced into a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan might not be an absolute perfectionist, but this concerned his future, so he suppressed all his fays to bronze X. Another reason was that Morbius grade and quality were related to the spirit-locked fey. A spirit-locked fey couldn't be changed, so every spirit-locked fey was of utmost importance. Otherwise, it would simply be a disaster for him if any of his fays were stuck at a grade. This was because Morbius grade would also be stuck at the lowest spirit-locked fey grade. When the fey evolved into a fantasy breed at bronze, he would be able to increase the fey's grade at will and wouldn't have to be stuck at bronze. He was originally thinking about how to obtain 2 mahogany tree cores after the jasmine lily evolved from epic to legend. Now, he only needed to use the Radiant Moon token to find the spiritual ingredients he needed in the Radiance Palace's treasury. Therefore, he decided to upgrade the Jasmine Lily's quality to legend and then fuse it with the willpower rune he had comprehended in the mountains, rivers, and vegetation. This way, the Jasmine Lily would become his first fantasy breed fey. Lin Yuan did not know how powerful a bronze/fantasy breed was. However, thinking about it, if it was at the same stage, it would definitely be stronger than a bronze/fantasy breed fey. When a fey became a fantasy breed, it would transcend the inherent genetic model and evolve into a fantasy fey. Finally, it broke through fantasy V and ascended to myth, evolving into a myth breed fey. Previously, Lin Yuan's vision was very shallow and only knew about fantasy breeds, but he didn't know that there were myth breeds above fantasy breeds. Now, not only did he know about it, he even saw it. Lin Yuan had also determined the path that the jasmine lily and his other fays would take after becoming fantasy breeds. Morbius had yet to wake up from its slumber. In the end, it hadn't been long since Morbius had fallen asleep. However, Morbius had yet to wake up, and Lin Yuan was rather worried. At this time, Morbius' attributes had already changed. Lin Yuan's vacant bronze spirit lock position had also been filled. Fey name, Morbius, spirit species, : Fey grade, bronze, 10/10, Fey type, spatial/mystery, comprehension grade, epic skills frowny face true data, convert all complex information that cannot be discerned by the naked eye into data. Information that is digitized may contain the truth that cannot be discerned on the surface. Calm mind, passive ability. The effect of calm mind can be strengthened according to the phase grade. Calm mind can stabilize the mind and has a certain probability of resisting negative states. Exclusive skill frowny face spirit lock, Morbius spatial zone can nurture phase. The initial grade of the Fey that Morbius spatial zone can nurture cannot be higher than Morbius grade. Morbius is unable to level up, but its grade will increase along with the Fey it nurtures. At the same time, Morbius can obtain the initial abilities of the Fey it nurtures. However, Morbius will not obtain abilities when it levels up. Every time Morbius increases a grade, it will be able to nurture one more Fey. At the same time, Morbius' upgrade method will remain unchanged. Pure Land of Bliss, the Spirit Lock spatial zone produces soil that can be used to heal near-death phase injuries. The phase recovery time will be determined by Morbius grade and the dying phase grade. Normal Spirit Lock, Jasmine Lily, bronze, 10/10, epic ability, heal, rapidly heals external injuries and slowly recovers vitality. Exclusive skill, recovery imprint, stores the healing energy that the Jasmine Lily normally releases. The contractor can activate the imprint to release the stored healing energy. Elite Spirit Lock, Spirit Gather Goldfish, bronze, 10/10, epic ability, spirit injection, a one-time recovery of a certain amount of spiritual power. Afterward, it will slowly recover the lost spiritual power. Exclusive skill, Spirit Chi imprint, the spirit chi that is released will not be released into the environment but will be stored in the spirit chi imprint. The spirit chi imprint will be branded on the contractor's body, and the contractor can take the initiative to release the stored spiritual power in the spirit chi imprint. Bronze Spirit Lock, Blue Flash Purple Butterfly, bronze, 10/10, epic ability, Silence Scale Powder, releases a special scale powder with a silence effect, causing the target that comes into contact with the scale powder to be unable to communicate with spiritual power and release abilities. Exclusive skill, Scale Powder Halo, the scale powder has a powerful reflective effect. The multifaceted reflection of the scale powder will cause the target that is enveloped by the scale powder to suffer from optical pollution, causing dizziness and even temporary blindness. Lin Yuan looked at Morbius data under True Data. He felt that it was really hard to find a healing type or support type Fey that was stronger than Morbius in this world. Each of Morbius' abilities corresponded to a Fey. Each Fey's ability corresponded to the Fey's corresponding exclusive skill. This allowed him to enhance Morbius' ability in the direction he wanted. After devouring a large amount of dimensional lifeforms' flesh, Red Thorn had evolved to Elite X/Epic. However, he was unable to help Red Thorn with the barrier between Elite X and Bronze. Red Thorn needed to devour a large amount of flesh to break through this barrier. It wasn't easy for a Fey to break through such a barrier, so the Red Thorn still needed some time to evolve to Bronze grade. The most important thing now was to evolve the Jasmine Lily into a fantasy breed. Therefore, Lin Yuan headed to the Radiant Moon Palace to prepare to obtain the spiritual ingredients needed to evolve the Jasmine Lily into a legend breed. He walked out of the pavilion and headed toward the Radiant Moon Palace. From time to time, he would see some rare Fays blooming in the flowerbed beside the Radiant Moon Palace or playing on the lawn. Before Lin Yuan could reach the Radiant Moon Palace, he saw Cold Moon walking toward him. Sang Yu glanced at Lin Yuan, bowed slightly, and spoke in a cold voice. "Young lord, the Moon Empress is asking for you to make a trip to the inner palace. Lin Yuan was startled when he saw Tsang Yu bowing to him. He quickly replied, Senior, I am not worthy of your greeting. Lin Yuan was rather respectful toward experts. Not only did Tsang Yu bow to him, but she also addressed him as young lord. This made Lin Yuan feel rather uncomfortable. Tsang Yu looked at Lin Yuan, and her usual cold expression was tinged with warmth. The Moon Empress is the owner of the Leaning Moon Mountain's Radiant Moon Palace. Black Moon and I are the Moon Empress envoys and also her retainers. Young lord, you are the Moon Empress disciple and her relative. You are naturally worthy of my greeting. In the end, you are also the young owner of the Leaning Moon Mountain's Radiant Moon Palace. After speaking, Tsang Yu paused for a moment before continuing. Young lord isn't just worthy of my and Black Moon's greeting. There aren't many people in the Radiance Federation who can't receive greeting from you. Speaking of this, Tsang Yu recalled that Jianghu had tried to kill Lin Yuan, and she frowned. This time, the Moon Empress probably asked your young highness to go because she wants to prepare an expert that can protect you. There are people with ill intentions everywhere. Before your young highness grows up, you must have a protector for your young highness. Lin Yuan's brows twitched. His master, the Moon Empress, actually wanted to arrange a protector for him? Baidu immediately read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.